My name is Kevin Ercola. Seated with me are the other board members, Christopher Gorman, Bruce Clark, Jeff King, Lisa Matondi, and our administrative clerk, Holly Chisholm. So, also with us tonight is our applicant for the sole purpose of this meeting, Mr. David Fromm, who will introduce himself in just a few minutes. So, the public hearing that is advertised is the only piece of business for this meeting. There is a procedure for public hearings information sheet that I have made available up here. If you don't have one, you're welcome to have one. Just to summarize some of the comments here. Once I've declared the meeting open, the board will engage with the applicant, have the applicant make his submission, his proposal, and then the board will ask questions of the applicant to clarify his proposal in many ways. And when the board is finished speaking, then we will open the question and answer period up to members of the public. If you have a question or statement, please make it to me. We don't want any back and forth between members of the public. I mean, for example, if you disagree with something somebody just said, we don't care really. We don't want you attacking that. You can express your opinion as your opinion, and you do so to me. If you have a question for the applicant, say, Mr. Chairman, ask your question. You know, what does the applicant think about this? I will then pass the question to the applicant, and the applicant will answer. Everybody will get a chance to speak who has signed up. Because there are a good number of people here, and I don't want to have to navigate a scrum of raised hands. We're going to call on people in the order in which you've signed up here. You may elect not to speak if you want. That's okay. When we get to the bottom of the list, we'll go back to the top and see if anybody who has not spoken would like to speak at that point in time. If anybody wants to make a follow-up question or comment, we'll do so on the second go-round in the list. But we want to try and keep this as orderly as possible, give everybody a chance to speak. We're going to try and limit your speaking time, if you would, to about 3 minutes, because nobody wants to be here all night and into tomorrow. Again, if you have something in writing that you'd like to submit, please submit it to me. If you want it read, I will read it in its entirety. It will be included in the official record of this meeting too, which will be available on the internet on the My Town Government webpage for this meeting once it's over. So again, I want to stress that we don't want any back and forth between members of the public or between members of the public and the applicant or this board in an obstreperous or argumentative way. If I find that anybody is being argumentative or disruptive of the meeting, I will warn them about that and ask them to please desist. If they refuse to desist and rather persist in their behavior, I will ask them to leave. If they will not leave, then we will engage the authorities to escort them safely from the hall. I hope that's clear. Now, we may or may not come to a decision tonight. If we feel that the amount of information we have is lacking in some way in order for us to make the decision, we may elect to continue this meeting to another date, which will be posted on My Town Government. It will not be advertised in the newspaper or by mail to people. So if you know somebody who's not here, and we do continue the meeting, and you know somebody who's not here but would be interested in attending at another date, if possible, please let them know. Once we close the public hearing, that is to say, if we continue it, it's not closed. Once we close the public hearing, the board has 90 days within which to actually come to a decision. So during that time, we can't take any more evidence from the applicant, from the public, from web searches or anything else. We just have to deal with the topics that were discussed, presented here by the applicant and by the public tonight. And then once we have made the decision, we'll file it with the town clerk. Once we file it with the town clerk, there will be a 20-day period following that during which anyone may appeal the decision that we've made, whether it's for or against. If no one appeals within that 20-day period, then the decision will be final. And now if we have elected to allow the permit, it will have to be recorded at the Worcester Registry of Deeds in order for it to become valid. And if we have not elected to grant the permit, then that's pretty much that. Okay. So, are there any questions about the process that we're going through here tonight, as I've described it? Yes, sir.
If I heard you correctly, it sounds like we have to have our name on the list to ask a question.
Yes, you have to sign in.
That's still an option?
Yes, please. All right, so it is 6:10, and I am officially declaring this public hearing open, and I'm going to read the notice that was published in the newspaper for this public hearing. In accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A, and the provisions of the Brookfield zoning bylaws, Section 4, Use Regulation Table, Part 6K, Marijuana Facilities, Section 8C, Site Plan Approval, Section 8G, Medical/Adult Use Marijuana Facilities, and Section 13C, Special Permits, the Brookfield Planning Board will hold a public hearing on an application from Sun Fusions Incorporated for a special permit and site plan review for a cannabis cultivation facility located at 6 Molasses Hill Road, Brookfield, Massachusetts, in a rural residential district. The hearing will take place on Wednesday, April 9, 2025, in the Banquet Hall of Brookfield Town Hall, 6 Central Street, Brookfield, Massachusetts, starting at 6 p.m. or as soon thereafter as can be heard. Meeting details and agenda will be posted at www.mytowngovernment.org/01506. A copy of the application may be inspected at the office of the town clerk at Brookfield Town Hall during normal business hours. Okay, Mr. Frome, would you like to make a summary presentation for the public?
I'll speak on behalf of the applicant.
And Mr. Sosebee.
Thank you. I'm Kyle Sosebee. I'm an attorney from Cable Pleasure.
Okay, you may want to use the microphone. Push the little button in the middle and get a green light. You'll be all set.
Is this amplifying or is it just for the recording?
Speak.
Yes, okay, there we go.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm Kyle Sosby. I'm an attorney from Cable, Fleischer, and Sosby on behalf of the applicant. So I think I'll start just by briefly reviewing the site plan just so everyone's sort of oriented to the project. Then we can discuss sort of the details and the concerns that we're aware of in the community.
Okay.
So, of course, the project is going to be at 6 Molasses Hill Road. The parcel is about, I think, 166 acres. The proposed use site is a small portion of that. So there's going to be a driveway coming off of Molasses Hill Road, and that will turn up into a parking lot that has 33 parking spaces. The structures, there will be 2 structures. One is a head house that will be about 7,500 square feet. It will contain offices, storage, a security office, restrooms, break rooms, a shower, staff facilities like that. It'll have a receiving area for shipments and deliveries. It will have storage, product storage, drying, trimming, and secure storage for cannabis products. That will also be where the proposed extraction machine would be located. And then just south of that, there will be a greenhouse. The greenhouse is about 63,000 square feet. It will be enclosed. And inside of the greenhouse will be a number of what are called rolling benches, kind of movable tables that the plants can be placed on and moved to create walkways for staff. So there will be fencing around the site, just a chain link fence. It will not be barbed wire or anything like that. The facility will be, well, there won't be any exposed canvas. There's no open air cultivation in this project. And just as you know, there's no retail at this site. There's no public, it's not a public facing business. There won't be any public access. The only people that would have access would be staff, CCC officials, and town officials on official business. There's going to be a private well will provide the water, and there will be a septic system for wastewater. There's a storage tank for wastewater on site. There's a dumpster pad for solid waste to be stored until it's taken off site. The only lighting on the site, well, there will be some supplemental lighting for the plant within the greenhouse, although the plants will primarily use sunlight for growth. The only exterior lighting, I believe, would be, there will be some lighting in the parking lot area for the safety of staff and anyone in the area at night. That lighting will, of course, be shielded and likely be motion censored. The CCC security requirements require that the entire area will be under video surveillance. There will be cameras covering the exterior of the area. The industry standard is that those cameras use some sort of night vision technology. There won't be visible light for those cameras to operate at night, just to address any light pollution concerns. So the nature of the use at this facility, the cannabis plants will be grown in the greenhouse. They will be harvested, brought into the head house, where they will be trimmed and processed to some extent. And then some of them will be put through the extraction machine, which will extract the oils in the plants. And then the extracted oils and then the cannabis plant products would then be shipped out to other licensees, either to retail stores or to other product manufacturers for additional product manufacturing. So just to run through some of the Brookfield zoning bylaw requirements as far as the findings that this board has to make. So one finding is that the facility is designed to minimize adverse impacts on abutters and other parties of interest. So I think, as everyone may be aware, that a primary concern as far as adverse impacts is odor from the cannabis cultivation. This project is designed to minimize odor impacts, one, because the plants are grown in an enclosed greenhouse facility, so it is not open air. The applicant will have control over the air that the plants are growing in, which gives it significant ability to control the odor that's released into the neighborhood. So the Sun Fusion's plan is to use an odor control technology called chlorine dioxide. Now that's a, hold on, let me get my notes. I'm not a chemist. So chlorine dioxide is it's a chemical commonly used for various odor controls, water purification, things like that. It's been used for decades throughout the country to, like in wastewater treatment facilities, and for all sorts of agricultural and industrial applications. You can buy it on Amazon for home cleaning purposes, and it's commonly used in industry. In fact, I believe that Brookfield uses, well, it doesn't use chlorine dioxide, but Brookfield uses chlorine to treat its own drinking water. And the way it works is it oxidizes offensive molecules. In this instance, it'll be in the air, not as a liquid applicant. Chlorine dioxide is considered safe in small quantities. It breaks down into sodium chloride, which is salt, and water. OSHA has established some use guidelines as far as what acceptable levels are in the air as far as human safety. The system that the applicant will put in would ensure that the levels are within those safety requirements, within those safe levels. Additional odor mitigation aspects of this plan involve the distance of the greenhouse from other structures. I believe that the nearest residence, or at least building, is located at 5 Molasses Hill Road, and it looked to me that that's about 550 feet, at least. Additionally, there are vegetative buffers. There's trees surrounding the proposed site, and vegetative buffers are a common way that, for instance, confined animal feeding operations control their odors. The trees will effectively block some of the odor molecules from traveling through. Additionally, the prevailing winds in Brookfield are from the west, which means that the closest structures are upwind from the greenhouse. The structures that would be primarily downwind are approximately 3,000 feet away. So additional nuisance concerns or adverse impact concerns might be sound. This operation is not expected to produce any significant sounds. The greenhouse will be no more noisy than the greenhouse that grows any other crops. The head house operations would not produce any significant noise, and they would also be enclosed in a structure that would dampen noise. The extraction machine is essentially quiet. I did mention the lighting. Any lighting will have shielded fixtures and will be designed not to produce any meaningful light pollution.
That's exterior lighting.
Yes, exterior lighting. Moving on to other mandatory findings under the bylaws. That the facility has received a provisional license from the CCC and is in compliance with all applicable state laws and regulations. So SunFusion's, the application for the CCC license is being processed by the CCC presently. We've submitted all of the required materials and are just waiting to get the provisional license granted. Given that the applicant cannot commence operations without either final licensure from the CCC as well as the special permit, we're asking that not be deemed that not prohibit this hearing from moving forward.
When do you reasonably expect the provisional license to be processed and granted?
That's a good question. I wish I knew the answer to that. I would hope to see the cultivation license on the commission's agenda within the next month or two, but I can't say for sure.
Sure. No date certain.
There's no date certain. You don't know until it actually shows up on the agenda. There's a finding that the applicant has provided a copy of a signed host community agreement with the town. The applicant does have executed host community agreements. That the applicant has provided a plan for adequate security measures. The applicant has shown and discussed the security plan with the Brookfield police chief. In the application, in the special permit application materials, there is a letter from the police chief indicating that those plans are satisfactory at this time.
Has the applicant also discussed with the police chief the traffic plan for the facility?
Didn't get in depth. We didn't go into depth about it. I do remember I'd mentioned it, but there's so little traffic on the road. It wasn't a big part of our conversation. We talked about security.
So on the issue of traffic, the facility expects to have between 10 to 20 employees. The number will vary depending on the season and the activity happening within the operation. Which means that it will not sustain 20 employees on a daily basis throughout the year. That would likely be the maximum amount at peak season or peak operations. Mm-hmm. There will be a minimal amount of delivery vehicles going to and from the facility, but that would not be a daily event. And since it's not a public-facing business, we believe that traffic impacts will be minimal in the neighborhood.
When you say peak season, how long does that run?
I would phrase it differently. The maximum number of people we would ever have would be 20. I plan to start with 8 to 10. And
For how many days?
Well, I don't think there's a big variation. We don't really have a season.
Okay.
So
so that would be ongoing.
It would ongoing and subject to increasing the number of employees if required, but not expecting maximum capacity from the start and maybe never.
Okay.
just to address the security measures a little further, while the details of the security plan are kept confidential, what the CCC requires is quite extensive. As I mentioned, the entire facility is under video surveillance. All exits and entrances are video surveilled, as well as have an alarm system. Everywhere that there's actual cannabis is under video surveillance. The videos are, the recordings are kept for at least 90 days for access to, and law enforcement and the CCD have access to those at any time. There would be, inside, the staff would have access to panic alarms or duress alarms in the event of a robbery or an emergency. There is a requirement that anyone entering the facility must show ID. They must be 21 or over, and they have to identify themselves, and they have to wear a visitor badge that identifies them as a visitor. If they're an employee, they have an employee badge that identifies them as such. So I think I'd like to move on to the waiver request that the applicant is making. I think those are the more, perhaps the more involved questions. So the applicant is seeking from the CCC both a cultivation license and a manufacturing license at this site. The manufacturing license is required for the extraction operation. And let me just say a little bit about what the extraction is. So it's a machine that I think is maybe the size of kind of one of these tables, maybe slightly larger.
Have you ever seen one?
Well, they come in different sizes, so I don't know for sure the size of the intended device. Okay, no bigger than that table. And it uses an aerosol gas, an inert aerosol gas, to extract the oils out of the cannabis plant.
What's the name of the gas?
The gas is called
R134A? Okay. The R standing for refrigerant.
That's correct.
Yeah, it's a DuPont chemical, I believe. Yeah. Okay. And it's used in automobile air conditioning, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was developed as a replacement for CFCs in refrigerant systems. And so the benefits of this gas for this process, as compared to other alternatives such as butane or ethanol or even CO2, is that it can operate under low pressure and low temperature. So some of the risks of explosion or fire that exist with other methods don't really exist with this gas because of the conditions under which it can operate. Additionally, it's relatively safe. It's obviously you wouldn't want to consume large amounts of it, but it's considered non-toxic or at least generally recognized as safe in small quantities. It's not dangerous if it gets on your skin. It can be inhaled in small amounts without harm. But the system operates in a closed loop system. So once the oils have been extracted from the plant, then the gas is recovered by the system to be reused. So it's designed not to be releasing the gas outside of the machine.
Is there a safety release on the machine in case of
Yes,
difficulties?
there would be like a safety pressure release in case it got overpressurized.
Okay.
Yes.
And do you happen to know what the global warming potential of this gas is?
Right. So my understanding is that there are significant global warming greenhouse concerns with this particular gas, and I know that it has received some attention from, for instance, California in that respect. So that is a concern. But as I said, the machine is designed to operate such that it is not releasing the gas into the atmosphere. So if all goes well, there shouldn't be an impact there. Additionally, given the size, there's a relatively small amount of it that's being used.
Is there an odor release during the extraction?
Well, the gas itself has no odor.
So the whole extraction process doesn't have an odor?
No, it shouldn't have an odor. Yeah, everything is enclosed. It shouldn't be releasing any odors at all.
It's analogous to an air conditioning system, Mr. Chair. You're not supposed to release it. It could happen, but that would be a
Understand.
So that machine, the extraction machine, the operation of that requires a manufacturing license from the CCC under CCC regulations. And so the waiver that the applicant is seeking is to allow this machine to be placed within the head house where the harvesting and processing operations are taking place. And the reason a waiver is necessary is because according to the Brookfield Table of Use regulations, a marijuana product manufacturer cannot be located in the RR district. I believe it would be only in the business district.
B.
Yes. And so what we're proposing is that locating this machine within the head house is what makes the most sense and will have the least amount of impact on the town. So, I think just logically, I hope the board can see that putting this machine where the rest of the operations is taking place, where the staff are, where any deliveries are coming to and fro, and where there are already some amount of, placing within the place that would have the most potential for odor impacts, that this is a way to minimize adverse impacts on the town. And so, I hope it goes without saying that to put this machine in a separate location, in a separate district, would have significant impacts upon the business. But what this board is concerned with, I believe it's this board's core function in the context of a special permit application, is to assess how the proposed uses fit within the intent and the meaning of the zoning bylaws, and how those proposed uses may adversely impact the land, the abutters, and the town in general. And so we propose that by putting this machine inside of the head house, that will have the least impact of any other alternative option of where to place this machine. So for instance, if this machine was to be placed in a separate building in the business district, then obviously the plant material that's being harvested at 6 Molasses Hill Road would have to be driven in a vehicle over to that other building. There would have to be additional staff going back and forth. There would be the potential for more release of odor in other places. There would be cannabis stored in another building in town with additional security concerns that would have to be mitigated. There would be delivery vehicles going to that address as well. And so we believe that by locating it in one place, this makes the most sense, not only for the business, but for the town as well. And I think that, I did read the comments that various people submitted. And I know there was there's various commentary about some of the wording in the applicant's special permit application about sort of the definition of manufacturing. And I think that while, I think there's a good argument that what this is not actually manufacturing, despite what this despite the name of the license that the CCC requires. We're not bringing in various parts or ingredients to make a new product. This is simply taking the plant and separating out a constituent part with a relatively small machine. But regardless of how you think manufacturing should be defined, what we're suggesting is that it only makes sense to carry out this process where the rest of the plant processing is taking place. That when the plants are harvested and trimmed and dried, that simply extracting the oils is an integral part of that process. And it doesn't make, it simply doesn't make sense to require that to be done in an entirely separate location. Now, I think where the bylaws would make sense and where this would be a different argument, and an argument that I think I would have trouble making, is if the applicant was trying to do a different kind of use that would be subject to the product manufacturing license from the CCC. So, for instance, under that license type, an applicant could make an infused beverage, for instance. And so if Sun Fusions was seeking to set up a separate building that was going to be manufacturing and bottling beverages on this site, I think it might be hard to make the argument that it needs to be located there, and that actually minimizes the impacts by locating it on the same parcel. I think I would honestly have trouble making that argument. But this seems quite different. A machine no bigger than that table, that's an integral part of the processing of the plant and fits in with the flow of the business and reduces vehicle trips and the chance for adverse impacts. These are the reasons that we're asking the board to make a waiver of this kind.
Let me just ask you, since you're talking about manufacturing, in the application documents that were submitted to this board, under the policies for manufacturing, it mentions vaporizing devices. What is meant by that?
So I believe that the applicant is no longer planning on. So I think some of the documents that were originally sent to the CCC did mention the manufacture of vaporizer devices. That is, my understanding is that is no longer Sun Fusion's plan to manufacture such devices.
Well, it's in your submission to this board.
Do you mean the vaporizing unit itself, the cartridges that go in a vaporizing unit?
Yeah.
That's packaging. We would be filling those, sure. We would be filling things from very small to very large. The oil would be sold in various different.
That's
right in the back.
See, I myself have, if I may, I myself have no problem at all making the argument that we could manufacture, that we could ask for manufacturing, because we already have manufacturing in the rural residential. I think what we have done is remove product manufacturing from our special permit application because we had a sense of the board that it was going to be a problem. I don't think it would be unfair for us to ask to manufacture gummies, for instance. I don't. We have a brewery that manufactures many kinds of alcohol beverages and then bottles them, which is also something that's not allowed in the rural residential. This board has the authority to decide what goes and what doesn't go, and no other board. No other board in the world. This board is the sole deciding body. But what we have done to make the process easier, and because I don't particularly need to manufacture on that site, we have only asked for that part of the manufacturing license that covers extraction. Because to me, extraction is the separation of things, not the production of products. Now, how we package it is a different story. Under the cultivation license, you can package. You could make an argument, I guess, that putting the flour in bottles or bags or other types of packaging, might seem to someone like assembly, but it's included under the cultivation license. Putting the flour into cigarettes and rolling them, that's cultivation, not manufacturing. So the CCC has its own vocabulary. But the word manufacturing means what it means, and this is not that. However, considering it manufacturing, I would still make the argument that we're not going to ask to produce any kind of products other than oil. How we package the oil for sale is kind of a separate issue in my mind. We're certainly not manufacturing the devices themselves. It would be the cartridges. So you can sell oil in a milliliter cartridge, or you could sell it in a plastic bottle of 1,000 milliliters to other people who then manufacture, produce, retail. That would not be our bailiwick. We would simply be separating the oil from the plant, much in the way we separate the plant from the stem, the buds from the stem. It's a mechanical separation. So I would make the argument that we might have asked for more, but we're not. 95% of the license we forego.
You may continue.
Thank you. The applicant is also asking for a waiver regarding the prohibition on two principal uses. I think that this is really the same argument as regarding the manufacturing. I think that if this extraction machine is located in the head house, because of the flow of the use, the workflow within the facility, the argument would be that there's not really a separate principal use happening. All that's happening is the plants are being grown, harvested, processed in a couple of different ways, and shipped out.
I'd say our principal use is the production of cannabinoids.
Can you repeat that? What was that? The production of what?
I'd say our principal and sole use for the property is the production of cannabinoids, cannabis and related substances. I don't believe it's a separate use. But again, we have precedent for multiple uses on one lot, so to the extent that you think it is a separate use, I'm asking to be granted a waiver from that. Much as the brewery got a waiver to have a cafe and a brewery and a country store and a wedding venue and a pizza shop. And we think that's great. That's what the board determined. But it did set a certain precedent, and I don't think it should be different for cannabis than it is for alcohol. They're both drugs.
Anything else?
I was just, well, I know there's a number of objections that at least the written comments raise. I don't know if it's appropriate for me to sort of proactively address those, or if the board would prefer me.
Well, we're going
wait for public comment.
to be going through those communications anyway, so if you'd like to comment at that time,
Okay.
you certainly may. Let me just go back to a couple of things that you spoke about. The septic system, has that plan been approved by the Board of Health?
The Leicester Coalition does that. Megan was out, did her inspection, approved the preliminary plan. We had to go back and add a benchmark or something, but my understanding from the engineer is that that's all set.
Do we have a plan that you can submit as part of this, the establishment of your use?
Sure. It's an approved, there's an approved,
And on the plan, you also noted that there is a storage tank for liquid cannabis waste. How is that emptied or otherwise disposed of?
So my understanding is that the cannabis wastewater cannot be put into a septic system under state law. So it would go into that that wastewater tank, and then that would have to be taken off-site by a third-party contractor and disposed of according to the state law. So the applicant would hire a company that would be properly licensed to remove that water.
In your submission for the special permit, you also made mention of the greenhouse having supplemental horticultural lighting. How much of that? Do you have a photometric plan for that, or?
So what's the question?
Do you have a photometric plan that indicates how much supplemental horticultural lighting you intend to use?
In terms of kilowatts,
Well, how many fixtures over what period, what area of the greenhouse, for how many hours of the day?
so it varies by the season and the time of day, but it could be anywhere from 0 to 18 hours in a day. And there are probably between 800 and 1,000 fixtures by the time it's finished, all operating at between 10 and 100%.
So, and I just make note that Brookfield's shortest amount of daylight is about 9 hours, and its longest one on June 21st or thereabouts is about 15 and a quarter hours, or thereabouts. So you wouldn't be running those supplemental lights outside of that period of time?
I'm sorry, you're asking if we would run supplemental lights outside of daylight hours?
Yeah,
Yes.
you would be,
Yes.
okay? You know that light pollution is an issue here.
We have a full blackout system.
Full blackout, what do you mean by that?
It means that black curtains go across and down all the visible walls and ceiling,
And the ceiling?
so that light can't escape them.
Is that an automated system?
It is.
It is, okay.
You mind if I jump in, Kevin?
Please do.
So a lot of stuff you're mentioning, and started off with, like, your opening statement was, there was a driveway, there's 33 parking spots. I believe that was your opening statement, right?
Mhm.
None of that's listed in here, right?
The parking spaces are on the plan. So if you count them, they're 33.
But not in this packet we have.
If the plan here shows that, no, it doesn't actually. It's not here, but it's in the plans that were left here, the large format plans that we have, plus
Do we have them?
in the packet. They're here someplace, but they moved the planning board office, and we can't locate the cylinder that has them right now. But we do have them on PDF form on the
Website?
website,
Okay.
on the town government website. So
Is the light layout, I'm gonna pull it up in a second. Is there a light layout, or is there any layouts for systems?
There are some lights indicated, I believe, on the
the exterior lights.
exterior lights.
Exterior lights,
But
Yeah.
not the grow lights, which is
No,
why
grow
I asked
lights
the
aren't,
question.
aren't indicated on the floor plan, no.
Do you know when it was posted?
I don't know when, but it's been
Okay.
up there for a while.
All right, so I'm gonna go through a couple things. You have a solid waste pad, assuming, you said for media, that you're gonna grow media. Now that gets disposed of the same way, hauled off-site?
So some waste can be composted
Yep.
in accordance with CCC regulations and state law. Any solid waste that cannot be composted on site would be rendered unusable in accordance with CCC regulations, put into the dumpster. There's a dumpster site on the site plan,
Mhm.
and then taken off site by an appropriate contractor.
No public access. The chlorine in the, for the smell system, the odor mitigation. So is that in the grow room, the chlorine is released, or in the vent system, or
In the greenhouse.
in the greenhouse?
It's chlorine dioxide. It's
Yeah.
a little different than releasing chlorine. But yes, it's released in the greenhouse, and it'll be released in parts of the head house too.
Okay.
Should we go with that system, it's completely effective. There won't be a smell.
So this is not the set plan, yeah.
Not until you say yes. I mean, that's our proposal, chlorine
No,
dioxide.
we approve your plans that you put forward. We don't necessarily make them up for you.
Yeah.
Of course, but there is some give and take, I'm sure. At any rate, my plan is chlorine dioxide because I've seen it in action, and it's extremely effective.
Why not activated carbon?
It won't get the smell the way this will.
Activated carbon is the gold standard for
Indoors.
For
Indoors.
no, for cannabis smells exiting greenhouses. In fact, it's been made the only way to use it, the sole way to mitigate odors in many open grow facilities in California. Why would you want to have a charcoal filter on the exit vents for your greenhouses?
Because there won't be any odor to exit. Chlorine dioxide eliminates the odor before it exits the greenhouse.
And chlorine dioxide itself has kind of a bleach odor to it?
It has no odor to it if used
Well, it's
in...
reported as having a bleach odor.
It can. If you use it in parts per billion that exceed the levels that we would use it at, you will smell it. You can't use more than 100 parts per billion, according to OSHA. We don't intend on using more than a quarter of that. And you shouldn't be able to smell that gas at all at those concentrations. You can't. I've been in greenhouses using it. You don't smell it.
Yeah.
You don't smell anything, in fact.
Is that in this plan? Is that listed in here, the chlorine?
Chlorine dioxide is listed in there.
I'm on the odor control, it just says it says you're willing to go over it if the town has 2 complaints.
It's in there.
That might be the host
Yeah.
community agreement here.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
host community agreement? Okay.
Kevin,
I've never heard of that,
I talk about odor.
Please do.
but, yeah.
Well, yeah, your whole portfolio here, we have less odor, potential odor,
Yeah.
odor. There's no odor here someplace, so that's a very big concern. You bounce all over the place between potential odors and odor nuisance. Odors all over the place. Odor concerns, odor nuisance, odor, potential odor, less odor. The word no odor doesn't come out all the time here.
This one says carbon filter right here.
So I'm
Yeah.
concerned because you mentioned odor many times.
That is true.
Sorry, I'm not sure I understand the question.
The question is, you're all over the place. Instead of saying there will be no odor,
That's HCA too, right?
your comments on odor are all over the place. There's less odor, there's nuisance odor, but nowhere in here does it absolutely say there will be no odor.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just been pointed out to me that you do refer to carbon filters
Yeah.
in the HCA.
I just, the only thing I'm concerned about is stuff being said, but that's not in here. I don't mind it being, like, not in here if it's, like, not important, but if it's like, you know, it says carbon filter and then you refer to, you know, the chlorine, I don't know which one's which. I just wasn't prepared on the chlorine, so I didn't look it up. I'm sure it's good, because everything changes, everything's, you know, new, I understand that. I just wish it was more detailed in here.
And your statement states the state standards for odor. You kind of scare me about odor.
Well, I think that there's discussion of odor because everyone knows that the plants themselves have odor. And we know that odor can be a problem for cannabis facilities. We're certainly not going to say that these plants will have no odor. The plan is that the odor control system that we put in place will neutralize and mitigate the odor such that anyone that's not inside the building can't smell it.
Okay.
But I mean, I think that's different than saying that the plants have no odor. That is not, you can't make that statement.
I'm not talking about internal odors. No, I'm talking about external, I'm not talking about internal.
I mean, if you want to point my attention to a specific sentence, I don't know if the context may matter as far as the way that the word
Well,
odor is used.
just go into, I think it's page 9, because all these pages are not numbered. Odor control technologies you're talking about. But at the very last paragraph, last sentence, the failure to comply with local regulations effective after February 1st shall not be considered as a breach of this agreement. Well,
So that's the host community agreement that you're reading.
yeah, exactly, but we're talking
Okay.
about odor. That's exactly what the title is.
But
So I'm very concerned if you don't adhere to the odor controls. You've already said that that wouldn't be considered a breach of the agreement.
I don't think that's what the host community agreement says.
Oh, okay.
I'll be happy to make a statement for the record. We intend to control the odor to the point where you can't smell it outside of the facility, and hopefully you can't smell it inside the facility. I think if we want to use chlorine dioxide, we will. That's what we'd like to do. If we need to supplement it with carbon filters on the exit vents, we'll add them. I mean, it's a flexible sort of target. The target is no odor. And if we have to add equipment and machinery to do it, then that's what we'll do to avoid violating the state law, to avoid violating any law. You're not allowed to have that level of odor. You'll be shut down.
Well, that's the problem in here. There is a level of odor allowed.
Respectfully, the state does allow a level of odor. I'm shooting for something less. I don't have a desire to smell it myself. I live next to it too. And chlorine dioxide is absolutely the most effective. That's why they use it in hospitals and slaughterhouses. It absolutely devours the molecules in the air, and then it itself breaks down in minutes. So it is the safest, most effective. If something better comes along, I'll use that. Because I don't want to smell, I don't want anybody.
Well, that's my
Compliant.
concern on this board.
Right, sure.
You know?
Who wants to start a project like this and only field complaints from people who find you stinky?
No, I agree.
Makes absolutely, right? And so my goal is like your goal, no odor. I can't promise you the plants don't smell, but I can promise you this. If my greenhouse operates like the ones I visited in California using ClO2, you will need to be 3 inches from that plant to smell it. That's how effective it is, and that's my goal. I don't want anyone to smell it.
Okay.
You mentioned in regard to the chlorine dioxide too, that it breaks down into salt. That would be sodium chloride.
That's my understanding.
Where does the sodium come from? Chlorine dioxide has two atoms, two types of atoms, three altogether. It's chlorine and oxygen. So where's the sodium come from?
I don't know how to, I don't have an explanation for that. And if I was wrong about what it breaks down into, that is what I have read. I'm not a chemist. I don't know the explanation of that breakdown.
We could try to get you that breakdown, but the chlorine dioxide is generated on site, and it's from constituent parts. So how they actually formulate it, I couldn't tell you. I know the active ingredient is chlorine dioxide, and that's what does the odor control. Whether or not it's carried by a salt or starts out as a salt, ends up as a salt, that's beyond my expertise. But I do know people who could answer that question if you wanted to answer it.
He knows the guy. Good. So I found the parking layout, or I found the
Okay.
layout.
You found the
okay.
layout.
Yeah. What's the setback from the southern neighbor?
Well, not the bylaw requirement, I mean, just the actual distance?
Yeah, just a distance, because you're, like, I see your locus, and I don't know the rough distance. I'm guessing it would be like, if this is, yeah, 80, if that's 80 feet, it's like 300?
Well, there's not, I don't think, the southernmost, or the southern abutter,
Is not there.
I don't think there's a structure there.
Yeah, there's no structure.
Okay, so I'm not sure how far it is to the nearest structures going south, but it's,
Facing south?
Yeah, I'm just concerned if somebody builds a structure right there on that open lot.
No, facing south is across the property and then across the reservoir.
No, south.
no, this-
Parallel
the-
to Molasses
Yeah.
Hill Road.
Right.
Yeah, what's marked as Q.
Well, I mean, I know where direct south is on the
Just
side.
below the map, okay, below. If you're not looking at the map, just go down.
I think it would be the
It's
locus.
it's the small little lot. I was just wondering, what's the distance, like 300, something like that?
Oh, that's mine. It's 700 or 800, 900 feet, something like that.
Okay,
The 8-acre lot,
yeah,
that's part of the property.
oh, the 5-acre lot. Yeah, it's 5 acres, it says, 5.09.
We're set back between 2 and 1,500 feet on all directions. I don't know
Okay.
the exact distance to every lot.
No, I was just curious, looking at the map.
We'll figure it out.
Do you have an elevation, street versus top of your building?
Do I have?
An elevation, an elevation, yeah.
Yeah, the site plan will give you the elevation. The building is about 16 feet high.
Do you have a street elevation?
Oh, like what's the difference between the street and the building?
Yes.
And the top of the building?
Yes.
I don't remember what.
I want to know whether it's going to be intrusive to the neighborhood, is what I'm thinking of, you know?
The street is, the site is like 770, 771, so the top of the building would be 787 or something. It goes downhill from there, so I gotta guess Molasses Hill Road is gonna be 40 feet below that.
And your building's going to be sitting at the top of the crown?
Top and setback. Yep. About 400 feet off the street, maybe 5.
And when you say there's curtains for the lighting,
Yes.
covers the top?
Comes across vertically.
Because you've seen on 146 in Uxbridge, right?
No, I haven't.
If you go on 146 in Uxbridge, they have greenhouses. It looks like the sky's lit up.
Yeah, no, you can't do that with this. It comes across horizontally above the rafters,
Okay.
the trusses,
Yep.
and then down the walls. So when it's closed, you can't see in or out.
Now, is that in this paperwork?
No.
No.
Yeah, it would be nice to know.
Yeah, it'd be nice
Did you
to
want
have that
full
stuff.
engineering on the greenhouse?
I mean,
'Cause
I
can
just,
supply it.
for our guests that are here, I mean, they want to know that, you know, what you're saying now is going to stick to something on this paper. This is a lot of paper in here. It could have a couple more things in it. I just wish that was in here, and that would just help out a little bit for everybody to understand, hey, they weren't just saying it.
It mentions minimal light intrusion. You're saying there won't be any light intrusion.
No, there'll be lights for the security system.
No, we understand outside lighting,
No,
Yeah.
no light can escape the greenhouse.
but we don't, it's not here in writing.
You don't have fully engineered greenhouse plans. No, I didn't realize that was something you wanted. It asked for floor plans.
Well, it goes to the question of light pollution.
Yeah, sure.
So that would be
It's
something that would
definitely
be
part of the plan,
intrusive.
yeah.
I
Oh,
think we
it's-
agree that.
it's-
And it can be a condition of the plan. I mean, that's what I was expecting you to say. I was expecting you to say, these are the conditions of the plan, and therefore you can't have light pollution, and so I better do something about it. And I'm in violation of my special permit if I don't, so my solution is black curtains.
Yeah.
I didn't draw them, but that's what it
Well,
would be.
we're
Or no
sitting
light.
here weighing in on a residential area and trying to figure out what fits in a residential area, and a lot of light going up to the sky, in my mind, wouldn't. So you're giving us an answer to that here
Sure,
tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. We're giving you an answer to that, but I think we were talking about the manufacturing. I don't think we've really spent a lot of time on the cultivation, but that's a kind of a cultivation issue, and it definitely fits in the rural residential. That's where the zoning puts it. But we would definitely block all the light if they're on past a certain hour, whatever the board determines. I've seen special permits. They usually say after 10 o'clock, you got to do this, or after 9 o'clock, you do something different. So we would comply with that, with whatever engineering it took in the greenhouse. But yes, we plan to have that without being asked.
Other questions? You spoke a little bit about vegetative buffering. uh, the lot is mainly forested, or at least it was to begin with. Yeah. How much more cutting do you intend to do, other than what you've done so far?
Sun Fusions does no cutting. I cut my property back to accommodate the site. We're done cutting
Okay, all right. So.
for this project.
Yeah.
I reserve the right to cut on my property.
Yeah. No, but what I'm just want to figure out is, how much of a buffer for neighboring properties and from the road there will be left. If you're not going to cut any more, that's a good answer. That's a good answer. I noticed on the plan that the driveway takes a somewhat circuitous route into the property. Are there any particular features of the terrain that made that necessary?
Yes, absolutely. There's a wetland area about 5,000 feet that was flagged, and so we stayed 50 feet off that for all work, and then the road is beyond that, so nothing could be cut within 50 feet, so it had to go around to go up.
Are there also some ridges on the road?
I'm sorry,
Are there
ridges?
ridges on the property that are sort of parallel to Molasses Hill Road?
Ridges on the property.
Like eskers?
Sorry?
Like eskers, glacial eskers?
Out by Molasses Hill Road?
Yeah, on your property.
Yeah, there are certainly
Okay,
hills.
does that road go between a couple of them?
It sort of goes, I would say, between is a good description.
Mm-hmm, okay. So, I have visited the site, at least from the outside. I haven't been on the site and looked in. I noticed that it's hard to see anything because of these ridges in there. Is your site beyond those ridges?
I see what you're saying. Yeah, it's hard to tell from the site plan unless you add up the elevations, but when you're looking at it from Molasses Hill Road, the greenhouse is on top of one of those ridges. It's,
On top.
The site goes up and then flattens out.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're seeing as a hill is actually the top of the site, and so the greenhouse is set back, I forget the exact distance, but it's 100 feet, 200 feet from that, so you would see the top of the hill, and then you might see the top of the greenhouse, but much of it would be obscured by the hill itself, because
Mhm.
you're low and it's high, and then the trees in between, yes.
Okay.
For the manufacturing facility, what type of building?
But it's just one building.
Yes.
The head house,
Yeah.
metal building.
I think it might deserve a site visit.
Yep,
No, of course,
yep.
you know, of course.
Also, I see on the elevations for the greenhouse, that there are a number of what appear to be fans. So those are exhaust fans for that. Apart from filtering and whatever for odors, how much noise do those fans generate?
From a distance, not a lot. If you're standing next to them, a lot.
Okay, yeah, so,
Okay.
you haven't done like an acoustical study to tell how loud the sound would be, say, at your property line?
No acoustical study. They're standard greenhouse fans. You can find them on any.
And they run continuously?
They sometimes don't run at all, but they don't run continuously.
Yeah, but are they there mainly for, what are they there for mainly?
They're designed into every greenhouse. I didn't have them removed, but I don't really think I'm going to need them. If I do need them, it'll be because it's hot and you're trying to drag some air through. That's not every day, and it's not necessary all the time.
Mhm.
This greenhouse is a little bit different than the average greenhouse for that reason.
And
Right.
your odor control system will work while these fans are operating?
Yes.
Okay.
Because the gas disperses, kills the odor before it's sucked out or pushed out, depending on how the fans run.
What are you going to use for generation power? Street power or,
We're using street power.
okay, because it did say something about generators, so
Well, there
I'm
are backup generators.
so I'm asking the questions.
Yeah, there are backup generators for the essential things in a power failure, but not enough to run the place. It takes way too much to run the place.
Okay.
Power goes out, we're down.
You won't be for long, not in the wintertime anyway. You'll be down and out.
Exactly.
The,
Not without risk.
Okay.
the backup generators are often just for the security system.
No, I read it and I wanted to make sure what we were talking about, that's all.
Have you checked with the fire chief as to the sufficiency of your access for emergency vehicles?
I've showed him the plan, he had no concerns, but I plan to meet with him again with this specific submission that we got to you. I don't know whether he's got a copy or wants a copy, but I'm gonna offer him a copy.
Did you discuss availability of water on site?
We did not.
Okay. Well, in the case of fighting a fire, where would the fire engine, if they ran out of water that they brought with them,
Right, we did
find
discuss
some?
that. We kind of had a giggle because the reservoir is located right there. But aside from the giggle, no, there is no hydrant nearby, and there isn't in most places around. We would have to use our own water source to fight a fire. I think his assumption was that, well, I won't speak for him. My assumption is that if the greenhouse catches fire, it's going to be some plastic and it's over. If the head house catches fire, there's really not a lot in there to burn. But the 5,000 gallons that we plan to have on site should be enough to fight either fire if they can get there in time for the greenhouse, or to fight whatever might be happening in the head house, which is largely steel and concrete.
Is the reservoir reasonably close if they need to
I think it's
draw water?
impractical to think
It's
you can
impractical.
fight fire from the reservoir.
No?
I don't think that's practical.
Why do you say that?
I think the distance and the depth make it impractical, and the need for speed. I don't think they can set up fast enough. As I said, if the greenhouse catches, it's just plastic, it's going.
Are there trees between the greenhouse site and the reservoir?
Yes,
Yeah. Would you describe it as a thickly forested area?
yes. I would describe them as, no, actually not densely forested. Between the greenhouse and the reservoir, it's lightly forested. But still, a very steep hill to get down to it from this site, which I said is elevated, and then just a lot of impediments trying to get water from the reservoir.
Okay.
I don't think it's practical.
And it's a steel building, right?
It is.
Yeah. So you don't have anything listed for fire alarm or sprinkler system inside your building?
Right, the security plan that I presented to the chief had it, and I'm happy to give it to you as well.
It's not in here.
I don't think it is.
It's not.
Are you required to have a sprinkler system?
No.
As
You're
long-
positive?
As long as they stay under the exact number they picked.
Okay, all right, I knew there was a number.
7,500 square feet
Okay.
is the number.
Yeah, yeah.
That's one qualifier. The other
Yes.
is you don't have water.
Wow, you could always put a sprinkler tank. They put them in
No, it's an
houses.
exception to the law that if you don't have a water system, you also.
Yeah, but you still would put a we could ask for a sprinkler. They put sprinkler tanks everywhere now. They have just big 500-gallon tanks in the basement, 2 of them. But you don't have
Yeah.
water. But as long as you're under 7,500, it shouldn't be a problem. Well, you're 7,500. So, think we should tackle the manufacturing now, or do we have anything else on the regular?
A couple of administrative things. Did you ever get the tax collector to sign off on your application that you're not behind in your taxes, or Keith Realty is not behind in its taxes?
Is she back? No, I haven't. Is she back now? No, she was away when we had that conversation.
That was some weeks ago.
Yeah, I think she got.
She's been back for some time.
I'll pop by her office for sure.
So we can't issue a permit until we have her endorsement.
Understood. I can get that from her tomorrow. Sure.
Right, let's see.
Do you have a number of how much water you're gonna be using, you think? Roughly?
I would estimate an average of 25 to 2,800 gallons a day.
And then you have a study saying your well can handle that, I'm assuming?
Well, the well will be able to handle that because we'll be using a storage tank. We'll fill up the tank and then use that to water and
Yeah.
fill it up.
But your well can handle that much water? It's
The
not
wa-
gonna run dry? It's not gonna
No.
run anybody else dry?
No, I don't expect so. My current well is perfectly adequate.
Yeah, but a home use is different than a grow use.
Right. I expect a flow of about 10 gallons a minute, and if that doesn't work, we'll sink a second well, but it would work. So 10 gallons a minute, 600 an hour, you can fill the tank in, 8 or 9 hours, and water, and then fill it again to have reserve water on hand.
On the plan also, on one page showed that the electric service to the site will be provided by an underground conduit. Do you know that for sure, or?
Yes.
Okay, National Grid isn't giving you any pushback on that?
No.
Because they have in other cases.
No, yeah.
Because if they had to put poles in there, that would be considered intrusive, I think, by a number of people.
I'm sure they drop one pole at the entrance, that's
Yeah.
how the underground starts, but then it goes up to the road.
Okay, right.
We made that, we're explicitly clear with them, and their designer had no problem.
Okay.
Do you have a design from them?
No. Yeah, we'll be waiting on that for a while.
Because they're gonna have to put a transformer, obviously.
Well, we do,
Yeah.
but it takes them, they're back up.
Okay. Did you want to talk about the manufacturing?
Yeah, the manufacturing.
Did it?
So manufacturing is not allowed in rural residential. For me, seems pretty clear, it's not allowed. It's tough because you are asking for one little piece to do one little thing. But as you made clear, we make precedents of starting to change the bylaw to allow manufacturing. It starts to go down a slippery slope. We're not even 2 years into making this law and a bylaw, and we're already trying to change it or alter it or make it work, which we don't mind. I think we're all pretty reasonable, but in our discussions of having the bylaw, it was clear that I don't think anybody was really in for manufacturing at any point.
We talked about it a great deal.
Yeah, we went over it many a times, and it's not in a floodplain, so that's excluded, but, we were pretty adamant that we were willing to budge on the grow in the rural residential, but, we didn't think any type of manufacturing was a good idea. And I think the reason is just because it allows a slippery slope for everybody. You start with this and, maybe you expand, you do really good, you put another one on the site. And next thing you know, you got double the operations. Well, we allowed the little manufacturing, how do we say we can just, we're only gonna hold it to the 7,500, the first one that we did? Because, at that point, you're gonna be doing good, so you're gonna be really pushing hard to maybe grow and expand. So that's where I kind of stand on it. That's kind of my starting point of what I think. One question is how much is this extraction business for you? Like, how much percentage-wise is gonna go from not flour to
Sure.
extraction?
Understood. When you cultivate, you're always running a risk of overproducing, right? It's one thing the state's very concerned about. So if you don't have outlets for the flower as flour, then you end up having to destroy crops potentially, or marijuana. Which, okay, you can say no big deal, but it is a big deal because you do that enough times and you're not going to be able to pay your people. So anybody that's going to grow that doesn't extract is kind of on a fool's errand. It's extremely important to a cultivator to be able to extract. And I'll leave you with my thoughts on this subject. I don't consider it manufacturing. I know it's under the, I don't want to get caught up on a word. The license is called a manufacturing license, so I get it. I concede it's under the manufacturing license, if you want to look at it that way. The process is what I'm concerned with. And what I think the board is concerned with is the actual thing that's happening on the land. And what's happening on the land in this case is taking the oil out of the plant, not combining it with other things and making gummies or cookies or anything else. That's for other people to do. Our job is to create the cannabinoids, and they come in the form of flour and they come in the form of oil, and then we ship them out to other people and they take it from there. Now, I have given up all requests for any kind of manufacturing of products such as we discussed those times. I took your comments to heart and I decided not to seek that in this location. But to cultivate without any ability to use the plant in any way other than as cigarettes or flour is a tremendous limitation. I would say a huge financial and legal hardship. It requires now what? Licensing another facility in another part of this or some other town, going through an entire process again to what? Take oil out of plants? I mean, is it really reasonable? We're not talking about creating any product whatsoever. And that's what manufacturing does. Manufacture, Latin, right? Hand, make. We're not making anything. We're deconstructing a plant. The way we tear the buds off the stem, we're taking the oil out of the plant. That's how I see it. You're free to see it any way you like. But the slippery slope, I'm sorry to say, has already been gone down. And the only difference here is we're not producing an alcohol product. We're producing a cannabis product. There are others who produce alcohol products in great quantity. And it may well fit the rural residential. I don't see how it fits better than this, but it was judged to fit. I hope you're not saying it was a mistake. I'm not saying it was a mistake. I'm saying the board has the right to choose what to approve. And I think the only difference, aside from the fact that our so-called manufacturing is so small as to be insignificant compared to the operation that's going on, that you did approve. So small as to be insignificant. Low pressure, no heat, no butane, no propane, no gas under pressure, you know, none of that, no bottling, no exception for bottling. We're not asking for any of that stuff. We just want to take the oil out of the plant. It seems to me almost unreasonable not to at least entertain that as something that goes well with what we're doing, doesn't cause odor, doesn't cause additional, I mean, nobody's going to know it's even happening. It's simply not a nuisance of any kind. It's just one more operation that takes place in most cultivation or vertically integrated facilities, with the exception that we're not producing any products other than oil and flour. So that's where I'll leave it. That's my ask. I think we already have established a precedent that some kinds of manufacturing might be okay in the rural residential. Some might be okay. Pressing apples for cider, if that's manufacturing, I think it's okay. Brewing beer, I think that's probably okay, right? I just don't think that this is a really big deal. I think it's getting caught up on a word.
Okay, we get that.
If I can add just a couple of comments to this, not to
Please do.
beat it down, but I understand that the board and the town doesn't want manufacturing in the rural residential. And I understand, because that brings visions of having a factory in a place where people live, in a rural place, right? I would urge the board to consider the other uses that are allowed both by right and by special permit in the rural residential. My reading of the bylaws, Sun Fusions could have a pig farm on there by right, and by special permit, they could have all sorts of things, including a boarding house, a funeral home, a restaurant, a printing press, a kennel, a flea market. There could even be an airport and a heliport, which is interesting. A lumber yard, fuel storage, truck terminal, a gravel quarry, a solar field. And to say that somehow those are not as bad as manufacturing, I think begs the question of, well, what do you mean by manufacturing? What kind of manufacturing? And in this instance, the manufacturing that we're talking about, this little machine that's going to be inside of the head house building, I think the real point is, you're not going to know whether it's there or not. Whether it's, the impacts will be so contained within that building, no one will know whether that manufacturing is happening or not. But if it's in a separate building in town, I guarantee you'll know, right? And so I think that's the real point. You won't even know it's there.
I think the nature of special permit, which is discretionary zoning, is not comparative in terms of the quality of the use, but rather in terms of how a use fits into a particular area. Moreover, as Chris has said, we discussed this at a great deal in putting together our bylaw section on marijuana facilities. And, the town meeting approved what we wrote. I think people have a certain expectation that what they voted for would be upheld. And, especially where, unfortunately for you, I think the marijuana business is still a fairly new business in terms of legality and production at scale. So it's we have discretion in that regard. Would you continue with the project if all you got was approval for cultivation only?
I reserve.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Mr.
Kevin?
Frome, what experience do you have in the cultivation of marijuana?
No.
None at all? None at all? Yeah. So you have, as part of your submission, given us this as your resume. Is this the resume that you presented to the CCC?
The CCC doesn't require a resume.
It doesn't. Okay, well, this is a little on the thin side. It's a relevant business experience, 7 years furniture and equipment salvage and sales, mostly as a licensed Massachusetts auctioneer. Around 30 years as a residential developer in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. Founder and operator of a medical testing laboratory. No details. What was the name of that medical testing laboratory?
Precision testing.
Precision testing? Okay. Is it still in operation?
It is not.
It is not. Why is it not?
It is defunct.
It is defunct. Why is it defunct?
Because I closed it.
You closed it. Yeah. Was it closed because you couldn't make any money at it, or?
That's accurate.
Yeah. Have you ever been subject to any kind of a criminal or legal proceeding or civil proceeding as far in connection with that medical testing laboratory?
Civil proceedings, yes.
Yes. And what was the outcome of those?
The outcome was that the state of Massachusetts was allowed to keep the money they owed me. And we both said we released each other without paying.
Mm-hmm. Was it just the state of Massachusetts, or were there other entities involved?
State of Massachusetts, state of Connecticut.
The state of Connecticut. Okay. All right.
Kevin,
Yes?
do we have a particular machine that we could attach to the manufacturing application? Size, weight, dimensions, so that when we vote on this, we either vote on a machine or a size of a machine, so that if it goes favorable in the future, there can't be two of these put in there, or an enlarged one, or something of that sort.
I seem to remember you saying that you didn't know exactly which machine would be, what size or what
I
model.
think, I think I said that. I don't know
Yeah,
that.
okay.
that the applicant said that.
I can certainly provide that.
Do you know it now?
What dimension do you want?
Well, what do you think is, what are you saying is appropriate?
I believe the larger of their machines, the smaller one would be inadequate.
Do they have like a performance, a
It goes
machine
by,
that does?
I think it goes by liters, as I recall.
Okay,
So 20, 50, 100, this would be the 100.
so maybe you could provide that information
Right.
so that we
And-
can write that in?
Sure, I can provide that.
Right, it doesn't have to be the exact
No,
machine,
no, just
but
a-
it's gotta be at least a
If,
But
broad
I'm-
base.
it's right, if we were going to approve a manufacturing device,
Understood.
that we'd like to know that it's not doubled in the future without another process.
Next
Would
thing
it-
you know, the whole building's a,
Right.
All right. Would it be acceptable to provide the information for the largest machine, which I think we would use, and then be allowed to use
Yeah.
a smaller machine if we wanted to?
yeah, we don't need the exact machine, I just think we need to know that there's a real machine that you're gonna use, and that this is like the machine possibly, like, you know,
That's
we
fair
don't
enough.
have anything, like, you could turn around and just use butane tomorrow.
Yep.
And next thing you know, you got a bomb in your building. I know you say no, but you know, and then, you know, we don't have a sprinkler system because you're undersized, but that you have a bomb next to, you know, houses, and there's no house next door, but there could be a house because it's a lot.
Right, and
So we
I'll
just
say,
want-
I'll say to the chair, also, part of my discussion with the chief was that we wouldn't be using butane or propane, so we're committing to that. And that was part of his reason for not being overly concerned about that we're not using flammable materials. And I realize that a lot of processors and manufacturers use flammable materials and dangerous materials. We just don't want to do that, so we sought out alternative equipment, which this is.
But we as a board, I believe it'd
I
be
will provide that
necessary
for you.
for us to
Yeah.
have something.
Well, that
To
detail
vote
isn't
on.
even in here,
Not even in here.
that you're talking about. It's not even in there.
And just saying no butane or no flammable, that would be great to have in your you know, your fire, the fire page that I listed. You know,
Sure.
your fire mitigation.
I'll provide that
Well,
information.
yeah, that'd be good. So the manufacturing, did you say what's your percentage you think? You're actually gonna turn from flour to, like, is it 10%? Is it like just the extra, just
You're asking for a prediction
just a guess?
or a
Just-
hope? Hope is 0, prediction is anywhere up to 50%.
Okay,
It's not the preferable way to dispose. The easiest thing is to
Just to
simply
get rid of it.
sell the
Just to
product you
sell,
make
yeah.
and let other people deal with,
yep.
What determines that percentage?
sales,
Just overall sales?
overall sales, the market.
Whatever-
If
whatever
we
your supplier's
overproduce,
looking for.
if we were to overproduce, what do you do with it? Well, you can extract it, and that will last longer and gives you more time to sell. But if you leave it as flour and you overproduce, then you're subject to a loss in tier. You know, there are sanctions involved.
Yep.
Things can happen.
And Kevin, with the extraction machine that we could or could not approve under manufacturing, is there a time limit that this machine can run so that, if you want to say it, we could limit the size of the facility for extraction? Like if it's, I don't know how you do it, but, you know, could you run this extraction machine 24 hours a day that allows his growth end of it, he'd have to produce more. But is that something we have to weigh in on
Like operational hours?
for the
just that,
extraction
just for that?
machine?
Yeah, there's probably some kind of cycle for such things to where you have to do maintenance at regular periods of time.
Well, I'm just saying for, if you have it, Will, to limit the amount of extraction involved. Like, you can't, we don't anticipate extraction 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But could that happen if we don't write in some type of language to prevent that?
Yeah, I mean, we have, as a board, have the ability to dictate the hours of operation of the facility.
The particular machine.
I know that in their submissions, they said, well, it's a cultivation facility, so 7 days a week, really, right?
Kept your eye on it, sure.
Somebody's got to be there to take care of the plants
And security.
and security. Yeah. So,
But
as
you
far
could
as,
certainly, I'm sorry, but you could certainly impose limitations on, the activity.
yeah,
You can't run it 24 hours a day, but you could theoretically run it 16.
mhm,
And if I choose a machine that has a known capacity, running it 16 hours a day, then you would have a pretty good idea of what the possibilities would be.
No, I'm just thinking for expansion, if we leave it open-ended, could you double the size of your grow house? Therefore, you're gonna double the size
No,
of
we
your,
couldn't. We'd have to go back to the state, and we'd have to go back to the select board and redo the HCA. It would be a nightmare. No, it's not.
Yeah, to be clear, there's no feasible way to increase the production from what you already see here.
okay, okay.
There's no way to put more plants in or to make more product other than essentially going through this whole process again from scratch.
Okay.
other
How
questions?
much maintenance is needed on that machine? And how often does it have to be done? Cleaning, maintenance?
Every day, break it down, take a couple hours.
And is there solid waste or liquid waste that comes out of that?
No, what comes out of it is what goes in. The dry flowers come out just minus the THC. So they would be most likely used in other products, sold as less valuable material.
So there's never any water to wash it down and clean it out or any of
No,
that? What about the
alcohol-
aerosol,
Alcohol, paper towels, it's an oil, so the water wouldn't help. You gotta use alcohol, isopropyl alcohol.
and the aerosol tank? How often is that maintained?
Oh, that's done by others. We wouldn't touch that.
Okay.
And I don't think they do it very often, but they would have to come in and do that. It's not meant, it's not really meant for us to mess with.
Mhm,
It's like, we like working on the air conditioner, I'm not qualified.
mhm. How much how often would the aerosol have to be replaced in that?
My understanding is it lasts for years under normal use,
Mhm.
but you do experience some loss.
Mhm.
So I can get that information more specifically if you like,
Yeah.
from the manufacturer.
Yeah,
It's not a question that I really asked because what I was told was that you're not going to have to worry about it.
Mhm.
That's not a great answer for you.
yeah. Other questions? Okay, we can come back to the board. I'd like to take this opportunity to read some of the submissions from members of the public that we've received. And if you're here, I'd welcome you making your statement in person if you'd like to. The first one I have here is Steve Carmen. Steve, would you like to speak to this?
Yes.
Carl, can you give Steve the microphone?
Hi, Steve Carmen, 44 Town Farm Road. I submitted my comment to the board earlier this week, written comments, but I'd like to summarize it in person based on the information shared today as well. I also have a house on Molasses Hill Road. I'm going to be moving in hopefully pretty soon. I'm in fact going to be a little bit further away from this site, as a matter of fact, because my line of sight is pretty close to Town Farm Road as well. So I think the issue that I wanted to draw attention to most of all was the manufacturing and the compatibility with the zoning bylaw. So land use, in our zoning bylaw, we have a zoning bylaw section 4D 6KB that states where marijuana product manufacturers and cultivators may be located. And as has been discussed on this board, marijuana product manufacturers has an N for no in rural residential. And we've discussed the definition of manufacturing, but I feel like it's better to be honest and genuine about this because in the notice for this public hearing, it does not address manufacturing whatsoever. It merely indicates the cultivation site. So it seems like there's this acknowledgement in the SunFusion statement that they are waiving 95% of the possibility of manufacturing but there still is that 5%, if you even want to divide it as such. So I agree that this is a slippery slope if we were to allow this, and on top of that, if we look at the state law definition of manufacture, it expressly states that extraction of oil from cannabis is manufacturing. So I would rather rely on state law for the definition of manufacturing as opposed to uncited dictionary definitions that the applicant provided in their statement, claiming that they do not believe they are manufacturing. And even in their own special permit application documents, they refer to their process as manufacturing. In the methods of production, it says Sun Fusions will manufacture cannabis products by extraction. I think it's reasonable to go by state law definitions and our zoning bylaws to conclude that this operation presented is manufacturing. The applicant has noted that they requested a waiver in their special permit application documents, but that waiver is problematic for several reasons. So the section 8G14 in our zoning bylaw does say that the planning board may at its discretion waive or modify requirements set forth in this section, section 8. Section 8, you may waive requirements. However, the land use regulation is section 4. So by that waiver, you cannot waive zoning bylaw land use regulations. And I do not believe that the planning board has that purview. I do not believe that zoning board of appeals has that purview from what's been clarified to me by the chair upon further inquiry. So why allow something that is expressly forbidden in rural residential, regardless of the scope of it? My other comments are about odor mitigation. The entire plan right now is really just to note that it's a chlorine dioxide system, but there's no mention of the scope, the scale, the design of the system, whether it's suitable for greenhouse usage, noting that it's used for purifying water or used in hospitals. Those are completely different purviews. Like, why would that necessarily apply to odor mitigation for a greenhouse cannabis facility? So I would like some more information on the design of that to ensure that it is appropriate for this use and it will mitigate the concern of odor, which is one of the greatest nuisances of concern to residents. As far as fire and explosion risk goes, this really ties back to the possibilities of manufacturing using certain solvents would be a problem. So their application does note that they're using the purified low pressure extraction system, which has been clarified uses R134A, which is a aerosol refrigerant that's also regulated by the EPA. It's been recently banned as of a few years ago in many applications, including refrigeration systems in cars for air conditioners. So there's a possibility that further regulation will restrict this use, and if that's the case, then that might prohibit the use in this scenario. And yeah, just to wrap it up, my final thing to say is there are issues with waste management and water usage. The number of parking spaces in the plan is different from those stated in the special permit application documents. There's been no traffic study conducted, and yeah, and Chair, you've done an excellent job addressing my concerns about the applicant's resume and the suitability of them to operate this business, and yeah, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I'm sure Mr. Carmen appreciates the support. Be aware that demonstrations like applause and so forth can limit the ability of people with opposing viewpoints to share them, and I think we want to hear them because nobody has all the answers. Okay. Next we have an email that I received from Mr. James Spalding. Is Mr. Spalding in attendance? No. Okay. He says, I would like to comment on the cultivation issue on the table for April 6th. He's got the date wrong, 2025. As a 45-year resident of this beautiful town and living in rural residential zoning, I highly disagree with this proposal to infringe on the residents who live in this area by allowing such a nefarious business to take root here. As a Vietnam veteran, I loathe the prospect of growing this wildly potent drug that has ruined so many lives. I know it's legal, not for my vote, but this kind of tax base is a disgrace to everyone who is aware of the drug's history, and I am asking the planning board to please disallow the intentions of a business that has no stake in our town and nothing of intrinsic value worth sharing. Then we have an email from Mr. Paul Metcalf. Is Mr. Metcalf present here? I question why development of a marijuana cultivation and manufacturing facility is being considered at the corner of Molasses Hill Road and Route 148. Molasses Hill Road is a lovely residential street with a road sign declaring children at play. It hardly seems like a location for any business. Sunfusion's proposal would certainly alter the character of the neighborhood, not in a good way. A nice walk down the street to Route 148 ends with what? An industrial facility? Not that Brookfield even needs a cannabis processing plant, but despite its lack of merit, its proposed location is puzzling. Speaking of which, why not solicit a new industry that benefits the whole community, one to serve all the Brookfields? We could really benefit from a minute clinic for quick and easy access to medical care, a convenient pharmacy. We're all central to all the Brookfields. Many residents would celebrate the introduction of such a resource as enhancement to our community. I thank you for your consideration. I regret I am not able to attend Wednesday evening's meeting. I appreciate this opportunity to say I am not in favor of the currently proposed development on Molasses Hill Road. Just as a sidebar on this, it is not the planning board's job to engage in economic development. That falls to the select board. I have another email from Mr. Joseph Letourneau. Is Joe here? Yeah, okay. He says, my name is Joseph Letourneau. I live in Wagon Wheel Park up on Rice Corner Road. I just wanted to say that I am full support of the proposed marijuana manufacturing area on 6 Molasses Hill Road. The construction and subsequent operation of the facility will create a lot of jobs for the local population. Additionally, it opens the door for dispensaries to be opened in the area, which will create even more jobs. I am in support of local and American businesses and farms, so the construction of this facility is a no-brainer. I hope you consider this email when reviewing the permit application. We have a more extensive email from Kimberly Hurley Simons. Okay. Would you like to summarize your?
Sure.
Sure. Okay. You will have 3 minutes.
Hello, Kimberly Hurley Simons, 11 Molasses Hill Road. This statement is submitted in opposition to the special permit application of Sunfusions, Inc. In a world of increasing anxiety and uncertainty, we now have to worry about the peaceful enjoyment of our property being threatened. I've been a resident of Brookfield for 35 years, my whole life. My husband and I chose to buy our home on Molasses Hill Road, where we've been living for 8 years because of the peaceful attraction to raise a family in a residentially zoned area of town. As a student in school many years ago, my bus route drove down this road daily, contributing to my dream of owning a home here someday. The previous homeowner lived in our home for 30 years. The surrounding neighbors have also been longtime residents. Mark Scenic Road, this location aids to the town's character. It is a great place to live with private water supply. We are raising 2 young children under the age of 4 and a baby due next month. We homeschool. We now fear not only the peaceful enjoyment of our property will be threatened, but also our air polluted and water supply hindered and or contaminated, as there's the rice reservoir goes into the rice pond, which goes into rivers, lakes, and streams all throughout town. In the 150 plus special permit application documents, there's nothing noted about traffic mitigation or a traffic study. Blind driveways and narrow parts of the road in a marked, thickly settled neighborhood. Any given day, there are pedestrians exercising, children waiting for their school bus, and various running groups of student athletes from Tantascwa traveling on the road. I have additional concerns. Odor. Application vaguely states the project shall employ odor mitigation technology, prevent creation of odor, nuisance, abutters, or surrounding area. Additionally, large size of the property means distance between project and any abutters will further mitigate odor concerns. I can see the proposed area from my living room, from my driveway. The statement does not provide sufficient details. Another part of the application states the CIO2 technology to neutralize odors in a safe, non-toxic, and environmentally friendly way. Also vague. When researching what this is, it's chlorine dioxide, introducing an additional hazard. There's health effects, acute exposure. Exposure to this can cause irritation of the nose, throat, lungs, as well as coughing and chest pain. It goes on about precautions. It's important to handle it with caution as it's a hazardous substance. It's explosive at concentrations over 10% and can be ignited by almost any form of energy, including sunlight, heat, or sparks. It's flammable and reactive.
20 seconds.
Fertilizers are also flammable. Spontaneous combustion of fertilizers are possible with the right conditions. Where will these be stored? The application states this project will not create a risk of fire, etc. This is factually untrue, misleading, and an offensively bold statement to say there is no risk. There is inherently a risk with the amount of lights proposed and even the proposed odor mitigation technology.
Could you
What's
wrap
the
that up, please?
evacuation radius? How can we be confident when a problem arises, the facility will take seriously the properly addressed concerns?
Okay, your time is up, but thank you, and we have the
you.
full statement right here for anybody who
appreciate
wants to read it. It's also available online. Okay, another email from Robert Kenyon. Mr. Kenyon, not here. Okay. I'm writing this as I will not be able, to attend tomorrow's meeting, but wanted to voice my family's opinion on this matter. I'm against allowing a special permit to be granted as I believe the upsides of what this facility does not outweigh the upside that it may offer. While some may say it may bring jobs or income to the town, I think that could just be temporary, as we are seeing a saturation of these types of places, and the environmental impact that will certainly be brought is not worth the maybes. I also feel that this could bring an incremental burden on the town with traffic, high water usage, and unplanned, unenforced zoning issues. We have lived here in Brookfield for nearly 25 years. Please don't let our town go down a path that will lead to the quality of it diminished. And then we have another email from Jim Cook. Is Mr. Cook here? I would like to express my concerns about the board granting a special permit for Sun Fusion to operate a cultivation and manufacturing facility on Molasses Hill Road. Any manufacturing plant requires huge amounts of water and generates huge amounts of wastewater. We have no sewer in Brookfield, and there's only town water in the center of town. Hence, it makes no sense to locate Sun Fusion's facility in any other location than in a designated manufacturing zone where there's public water, assuming wastewater issues could be addressed. For those reasons alone, this permit should be denied. Then we have a note from Christopher Kelleher. He said, I write to comment directly on the pending application from Sun Fusions and to offer input on how regulatory coordination may affect the permitting process. The April 7, 2025 letter from the Board of Health, which was posted to the website, and we'll tackle that in just a sec, raises several issues such as zoning interpretations, manufacturing definitions, and permit authority that are important but appear to fall primarily within the jurisdiction of the planning board. These questions are best addressed through your board's land use expertise, and I respectfully suggest that zoning matters be considered independently of health-based permitting processes to preserve the integrity of each board's distinct role. It's also important to consider whether all applicants in the zoning district are being treated equitably. A business currently operates in the same district under a prior special permit for alcohol production and bottling, activities that arguably constitute manufacturing if that type of operation was permitted, but cannabis extraction using a non-volatile food-grade CO2 process is denied. It would be difficult to reconcile such a distinction without a clear fact-based rationale grounded in the bylaw. To that end, I believe that it is helpful to highlight what Brookfield Board of Health has already adopted, a comprehensive set of local regulations specifically addressing marijuana-related concerns, including odor control, noise mitigation, wastewater management, and general nuisance prevention. These regulations were enacted in 2024 and are now in effect. If this facility is approved, it will be subject to annual Board of Health permitting and must comply with all relevant public health standards. That local process exists alongside and not in place of the robust state-level oversight administered by the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission under 935 CMR 500. In short, odor double covered, water and waste double covered, health and safety double covered. These concerns are not being overlooked. They are already addressed by law and regulation. As such, they are more appropriately managed through ongoing oversight and enforcement rather than through zoning preconditions. Raising the same concerns across boards can unintentionally lead to confusion or redundancy and may complicate the planning board's ability to assess land use on its own merits. In short, I respectfully request that the planning board evaluate the Sun Fusion's application on its own merits, avoid reliance on legal interpretations from outside bodies, ensure equal treatment of similar land uses regardless of industry, and acknowledge that concerns about odor, water, and nuisance are already addressed twice through both the State Cannabis Control Commission's comprehensive regulations and the Brookfield Board of Health's own local marijuana regulations. These issues are fully governed through ongoing permitting and enforcement, so they are already double covered.
Through you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Kelleher has his hand raised.
Oh.
Oh, on the
Can he hear,
screen.
can he hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Chris, do you have anything yet to add?
No, I appreciate you reading that letter for me, so thank you for doing my work. But, the only thing I would add to this is I would just really emphasize that, the Board of Health, did a lot of work getting us that local regulation to prevent nuisances with marijuana in our town. So we are extremely double covered. So all those concerns about odor and all those concerns about water waste and health and safety and it being a nuisance to the neighbors will now have, two courses of action to take if there's any issues. One locally with the Board of Health and the other with the CCC. So there's, just definitely, corrective recourse to take on both the local level and on the state level. So it really is double covered.
Okay, Chris, that's time limit. Thank you very much. Okay. Also, email from Jared Ben Harris. Mr. Ben Harris here this evening? No. Okay. So currently at 35 Molasses Hill Road. My wife and I just moved into Brookfield for the peaceful and family-friendly environment, among many other reasons. As a young family, it is very concerning that a large marijuana manufacturing building may be built at the foot of our road. It would heavily impact our home's environment, the traffic, wildlife disruption, unpleasant smells, potential pollution, light pollution, and other unforeseen disruptions this would cause are the exact opposite of why we moved to Brookfield. Molasses Hill Road is a marked scenic road recognized by the town of Brookfield, and it has been for a long time. I hope that this is taken into consideration as a huge part of what makes our slice of heaven on the hill so nice is the peace and quiet, and above all, the community that comes with it. We hope that this building does not pass. I am positive there are multiple other areas in the town that could support this without disruptions to the surrounding houses and wildlife. And then we have a submission to which has already been referred to from the Brookfield Board of Health. Anyone here?
There's a quorum.
There's a quorum, okay. So, yeah, and this is quite extensive.
Kevin, should be 3 minutes on everybody, even the stuff you read.
Yeah, right. Yeah, this is a long one, but it talks about a number of things. Mr. Kelleher's note referred to local Board of Health regulations. They passed 2 local regulations relating to marijuana establishments in November of 2024. These are regulation to ensure the sanitary and safe operation of marijuana establishments and the sale of marijuana and cannabidiol, and a regulation of marijuana establishments to prevent nuisance. And it goes on to say many of the things that Mr. Kelleher already said about state regulation, and things that have already been brought to us by Mr. Carmen regarding the disallowance of manufacturing in rural residential zones, the the definition of manufacture as found in state regulations, which includes extraction. And And then things that are more appropriately the domain of the Board of Health, such as approval of septic design, and because this project is going to be using private wells for water, this is also governed not by the Water Department, but by the Board of Health. Isn't that right, Bruce?
It's true.
Yep. So, and talking about nuisance prevention for marijuana, which we have discussed at great length. And then health and occupational safety is important. It's a Board of Health concern, though it is internal to the to any kind of a facility, not just marijuana. It's not, OSHA is the federal arm of that. It's not something that that involves land use, which is this board's domain. So that letter, as I said, it's about 7 pages. No, 9. Sorry. It's posted to my town government if you care to read it, and we can have copies of it made if anybody's interested too. And a couple more letters we have. One from Karen Reynolds. Is Karen here tonight? No. Says, I'm opposed to the special permit for the cannabis cultivation and manufacturing at 6 Molasses Hill Road. Molasses Hill is a rural residential area with no town water service, only well water. Cultivation requires a massive amount of water per plant. Even with the trickle method that is proposed, this will possibly affect the aquifer after continuous use. There is no plan to monitor this usage or any remedial plans if our wells are affected. Wastewater from cannabis is considered hazardous waste and must be disposed of properly. If it is not, the groundwater and well water will eventually be affected. This won't be immediate, but will occur after a period of time. Once the aquifer is contaminated, there's no going back. It would be like Princeton, where the town then supplies water to citizens with contaminated wells. Brookfield's main resource is clean water with multiple lakes and rivers. This facility will change the watershed in a negative way. It would be a huge environmental impact. Cultivating marijuana does not fall under any of the agricultural law and regulations, as it is not considered agriculture. There are no restrictions on pesticides or fertilizers. Nitrogen runoff will damage and contaminate the groundwater and native species of plants. I just pause here to say that these are statements made by individuals. The factual content may or may not be accurate. For one thing, I happen to know that registered pesticides are not allowed to be used on marijuana facilities. It's just not allowed either on the federal or the state level. Cultivating marijuana does not fall under any of the agricultural law and regulations. It's not considered agriculture, that's true. There are no restrictions on pesticide, well, I said that. The extraction process uses volatile chemicals such as butane and ethanol, and we've talked about that. Enforcement is a concern. It's not decided by the planning board, but should be taken into effect regarding the decision, yeah. There has been a total lack of enforcement of our bylaws and state law. The land project aspect of this facility started with a permit request to the Conservation Commission for a driveway along a cart path, and she goes into issues related to that Conservation Commission submission. The corporation applying for the permit, Keith Realty, had been dissolved by the Secretary of State and was not allowed to do business or apply for permits. The town was notified, but there was no action or enforcement. The permit should have been revoked. When the Conservation Commission reorganized, there was a cease and desist issue. The applicant ignored the cease and desist and instead filed a lawsuit against the Conservation Commission. There's no permit for a curb cut or logging. There was a 500-gallon diesel container placed with no permit. There has been no enforcement from the town. Instead, there has been no trespass order issued against the Conservation Commission and the Board of Health by the applicant. Mr. Sosebee, there are a lot of accusations in that. Are any of them substantiated, to your knowledge?
Not that I know of. I do know there is active litigation with the Conservation Commission issue.
Okay.
And so just to say that those facts are clearly in dispute, and I urge the board not to draw any factual conclusions on that issue,
Okay.
certainly after that letter.
Okay. And one more letter. This is from Tammy McLeish. Is Tammy available? No. Okay. I would like to say I'm 100% against the building of this facility in Brookfield. One, too close to the school. What the heck are we teaching our children? Two, more traffic. I wanted to live here to get away from traffic. Three, that god-awful smell. That's it. Short and sweet. Maybe not so sweet, but short.
Say no, just say it.
Right. Okay, so let's, if anybody wants to speak who's in attendance here, Holly, whose name is first on that list?
Francis?
Oh, that's Mike. Mike, do you have anything to say?
Many of my
Yeah, use the microphone
points
there.
have already been addressed,
Okay,
Good.
so I'm gonna, the card in the new leader really set it for me.
mm-hmm,
And so I'm gonna pass.
okay, all right, good enough.
Thank you.
Who's next?
Lynn Bergeron?
Lane Bergeron?
Hi, that's me. Thank you. Can you press the button? Okay. Hi, thank you. Okay, my question is, I heard that the minimum odors would be covered by the tree lines. My question is, what type of trees are they? Are they trees that are gonna lose their leaves in the winter?
So what kind of vegetative buffer do we have currently? What kind of trees do we have?
I might be aware of some, but that's not part of my plan.
Yeah, I think the question was directly as to the species of trees. So what are they? Are they pines or deciduous?
Some deciduous, some coniferous,
So
not an arborist.
it's a, okay,
It's on there.
Really don't know?
okay.
It's a forest in between, a
Yeah.
little bit of forest.
A little bit of forest, but that's not what I'm relying on for other things.
I got you.
Right.
Although it can help, it's not what I'm relying on.
Holly, who's next?
So we have Steve Carmen.
Yep.
Porter? Oh, Bonita? Bonita?
Bonita Porter. Ah, there she is.
I'm Bonita Porter. I live at 18 Wells Road. I'm here to support the residents of Molasses Hill particularly. I was a selectman several years ago, and one of the things that I learned there is that people had certain expectations. If they lived on Route 9, they could expect a garage or a Class 2 license. But when they moved out into the country, into rural residential, they had a reasonable expectation of peace and quiet enjoyment of their property. And to think that they've invested all this money into their homes out there is something that we need to take seriously. I think this whole issue, though, is premature from a few standpoints. Number one, Mr. Clark and Mr. Gorman both mentioned a lot of missing pieces in this proposal. A lot of information was not included. There's a lot of vagueness there. I suppose when you put something in writing, you're held to it, and if you don't put it in writing, then what can you be held to? And I don't think that what's been said here tonight by the applicant or his attorney is something that you can set in stone and say that's how it's going to be. I also think that there's because of the pending litigation, which has been brought on by the applicant himself, as well as a lack of a provisional license from the Cannabis Commission, is something you need to take into account. This is premature. I think it should be, it's up to the applicant if he wants to withdraw his litigation in court. That might move things a little bit faster, but I wrote to the Cannabis Commission and I brought that point up. This is because of the applicant that there's been a delay, because he's the one who's brought the issue to court. Of course, we should let it play out in court. It gives the whole process credibility, and to sit back and take some time in this, I think it's just too premature. But I do support the residents of Molasses Hill.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Porter. Who's next, Helen?
Anthony Bertolini?
I want to take a moment just to discuss a few observations from the meeting today, in no particular order, and I'm not looking for answers to the question, but I want to get them on record. First, I heard the applicant's lawyer use terms like likely, in my understanding. Those are terms that are not firm, they're not contractual, they're not an agreement, they're not binding. I heard the applicant say, if we choose to use chlorine dioxide. He didn't say we were going to, he said if we choose to. My questions: how's the chlorine dioxide delivered, stored? Is it liquid, solid, gaseous? How is the chlorine dioxide generated on site? What is the liquid waste? What's its toxicity? Are there carcinogens? What is the mitigation plan for a liquid leak? There are wetlands downhill. There's a difference in the benefits and risk to the public between a brewery and a pizza place, excuse me, and a shop than a manufacturing facility. Intent to have no, excuse me, intent to have no odor is not guaranteeing no odor. The applicant split hairs between Sun Fusion and himself as the landowner when it came to clearing the land. So is that a good faith way to proceed? I believe he's suing the town. He owes back taxes and didn't take the time to fix that before coming to this meeting. 33 parking spaces versus 20 in the plan indicates larger plans to me. Low pressure, R134A, is used in high pressure situations for cannabis processing. I Googled that. That's enough for now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And Mr. Chair, we do have a comment in the chat at some point if you would like me to read it.
What's that?
We have a comment in the chat if you would like me to read it.
Oh, yeah, sure, go ahead, Jake.
So this is from David Ayers. He says, we allow a major eyesore on Route 9 in the form of energy conservation. We allow major storage of propane a few hundred yards from our school. You are sitting in judgment of a business person who is willing to work with the town and contribute to our tax base. Look at our main street. What does Brookfield have to offer its citizens? Yes, it's nice to live in a pristine environment, but somebody has to pay for it. Cannabis is plant. They could grow corn.
Okay, thank you. Who's next, Tom? No.
No,
I believe
that's the
it's-
bottom of the list.
James Hanson?
James Hanson?
Is that
Mr. Hanson? No,
18 Cornerstone Trail?
apparently not.
Okay.
Okay, who's next?
Okay, John McGrath?
I have nothing to add.
You're good? Okay.
Stuart Simmons?
Stuart Simons? Simons.
Son?
Simons.
I don't have a lot litigiously to gotcha with, but commonsensically. So there's a specific bylaw that states we don't want this facility within 500 feet of a school. And anybody with a brainstem can think that that's to protect children. Now, I'm not going to say the school bus is the property of the school, but it is an extension of the school, and it holds children in the school bus, which is an extension of the school's responsibility to provide safety to the children. And the school bus crosses that facility twice a day. Sorry, stage fright.
That's okay.
So I have 2 children myself, so I'm just wondering why the bylaw affords the school children the buffer of the marijuana zone, but not the school bus children or my children. Now, I don't live within, I live probably 600 feet from the marijuana facility, not 500 feet. So I'm probably just like a stone's throw away, but I don't know why my children have to be subject to this marijuana facility 24/7, while the school children get, who are there at the school 6 or 7 hours a day, they get this bylaw of the buffer to them when they don't have the skin in the game like I and my children do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, the bylaw provision in that regard is written to be consonant with the state law regarding marijuana and specifically the regulations. So the regulations require that there be a 500-foot buffer between any fixed area where there are children congregating on a regular basis. Driving by in a bus or in cars and so forth is not a standard that the state ascribes to, and it's not looked upon as
Well, that's
a
fine, but
reasonable
my
thing.
children congregate very regularly, really close to it.
I understand. I understand.
It's
Okay.
also to the front door as well,
Yeah.
so that's further down.
This is Maureen Lepak.
Maureen, okay, Maureen, you're, do you want to say anything more, or?
I don't have personal comments to make, I already provided them.
Okay, who's next?
Okay. Heather Stark?
Heather Stark. There she is. Who has the,
Looking for the,
oh, Jacob's reloading the microphone.
Bad.
I share all the same concerns that have already been brought forth. I'm also a stone's throw away from this property. My additional concern is what this does to the values of our property and our neighborhood, which is quite beautiful right now, and what's there is an eyesore, and so we have a beautiful road. I'd like to keep it that way.
Okay, thank you. And next we have,
Karen Saramet?
My questions have been answered.
Oh,
okay,
okay, Barbara Wilson?
now,
Jennifer Hurley?
I share the same concerns as them. My niece and nephew are across the street. And then the light pollution, so he's saying is.
you don't have the microphone, so the people at home can't hear you.
The light pollution, he says he has curtains that go vertical. What about the ones above head?
He said horizontal too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's gonna go, like, there's gonna be like a thing that just brings them all the way.
That's
what was
That's
stated.
what, yeah, that's his submission, yeah. Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
you bet.
Can we ask when you resubmit, if you resubmit stuff, if we could get something like that in this? Just so we know that this light pollution is gonna be contained, would be great.
John Wojak?
John Wojak?
Wojak? No.
No?
Mary Ann White?
Mary Ann White? Oh, there she is.
The only thing I wanted to bring up is an article that I have here, which there's many articles if you search on David Fromm. And I just want to bring up something that's relevant to here, which is the permitting process. David Fromm was involved in sober houses as part of his other business, Keith Realty, and bought property from his other business, Fromm Development, who built buildings on this property. And according to this article and many articles, if you search, the proper building permits were not obtained, which resulted in endangering people's lives through this project. And in this particular article that I have right here, a sergeant with the Boston Police Department stated that there were 3 fatalities. 3 people died. My question to the planning board is, based on David Fromm's prior business practices, are you confident that the proper permits will be obtained, that all the applicable laws, the regulations will be followed, and are you confident that the Brookfield residents will remain safe with this company in our town?
Thank you for your question.
I'll address that.
Yes.
If you read a little more carefully or research a little
Jake,
more.
can we have the microphone over here?
I know we don't want to get too into the details, it could interfere with the narrative, but if you do a little homework, the sober house was owned by others. I had an ownership interest for 12 months. At that point, the buildings had all been completed and CO'd. I was out of the construction end. And 12 months later, I sold out my end of the thing before all that happened that she's referring to. So if you look into the details of it, I did no construction without permit. I was cited for no problems with permits, and all of my work was signed off on prior to the sober house operator taking over. Thanks.
Great.
You say 12 months?
So, we also had a question that if they're not written down, can they speak?
Yes.
Okay. Do you let me speak?
Yeah,
Is he, well, he's on the list now.
Oh, he's on the list.
He's on the list.
All right, so I'll bring it.
Deborah Ayers.
Deborah Ayers. Okay.
Paul Ayers.
Paul?
Hi, I'm Paul Ayers, 23 Long Hill Road in Brookfield. Come this December, I'll have 70 years invested into Brookfield. I take pride in my property. As the bird flies, I think the odor is going to be an issue. Take a look, take a ride in North Brookfield. Take a ride over to Ware. See what you smell. The chemical that they're going to use, you can look up something real quick, which I knew nothing about that came in, but it reiterates what someone has said already. It says, according to the CDC, long-term exposure to chlorine dioxide can lead to the respiratory problems, including reactive airway dysfunction syndrome, RADS, and many weakened teeth. And there's a whole narrative in it you can look up real quick. So I just want to say I'm opposed to it. I'm not opposed to businesses coming into Brookfield, but I'm opposed to this business coming into Brookfield. Thank you.
Thank you. Jonna Cox.
Jonna Cox, 98 Molasses Hill Road. I'm opposed to this project. In February, this board had an open meeting and approved a special permit for resident Mr. Wexler in a rural residential area on Fiskdale Road for a financial planning office out of his home. If you may recall, I had asked specifically how many special permits for businesses have been granted for rural residential areas, and at what point does the number of granted permits impact the zoning and character of these areas. Your reply was that you had only permitted a small number. The businesses were very small, were inside the primary home, and had minimal impact on their neighbors and neighborhood. Obviously, based on the application and the site plan submitted by Sun Fusion, this is completely opposite from what has been permitted in the past and goes against the rural residential zoning laws of this town. In referencing the documents submitted by the Board of Health and Steve Carmen, this project is simply not allowable in rural residential district. Zoning bylaws special permit section 13C is intended to provide detailed review of certain uses and structures which may have substantial impact upon abutters, traffic, utility systems, and the character of the town. Section 13C, 10A and B, the use will not be detrimental to the public good and the use is in character with the district. This type of project is unequivocally detrimental to the character of the neighborhood. A proposal for the 62,000 square foot greenhouse used for cultivation and manufacturing, a 7,500 square foot head house for post-harvest operations, including trimming, extracting oils, drying, packaging, which will be done on site. This facility will require a domestic water well, suction line, industrial wastewater holding tank, stormwater basin, underground electrical data conduit, and sliding gate at the entrance and a chain link fence around the area. It will increase traffic, including delivery vans and 10 to 20 employees slated to run 7 a to 7 p, 7 days a week, depending on harvesting. This project is in the definition of an industrial facility and is not consistent with the zoning or character of the neighborhood. With the removal of over 5 acres of trees, it's already changed the landscape in that end of the road and was deemed as a scenic road by the town. Across the street is not 2 active businesses like it is from Mr. Wexler on Fistale Road. It's a brand-new single-family home which is in the middle of a neighborhood filled with single-family homes, including an extensive residential project known as Molasses Hill Estates. Section 13C 10E, offensive, dangerous, or harmful Sun Fusions project will need extensive lighting and water use. All the residents are on well water, as we all know. And the plant is known for emitting a skunk-like odor, which can impede one's ability to enjoy their home and has been noted by residents up to a 1 mile to 2 radius from the site. It has been documented by several towns that they are dealing with endless complaints about the odors despite mitigating facilities.
15
Webster,
seconds.
Holyoke, Williamstown, Hubbardston, West Stockbridge, and Greenfield, to name a few. I have the articles for review. In comparison to Mr. Wexler's project, Sun Fusion's project at Molasses Hill Road does not meet the requirements of the zoning bylaws noted in Section 13. A project of this magnitude on the site map would change the entire dynamic of the neighborhood. This project is approved. It will set a precedent for future business owners who want to come in and put a large-scale business or project in the residential area in town.
Thank you. Thank you.
Lisa Mullen? Yep. That's you.
Thank you. I spent my life in Western Mass. I grew up in the city, and then I moved and spent 30 years in a rural area. And because of my husband's health, we were forced to move, and we had a frontage, a large frontage. I'm surprised how much frontage, road frontage, that's actually required here. We felt at 250 we didn't have enough, so we bought the plot next to us. Even with that and trees buffering between the homes, we could still see the other homes and neighbors. So we had everything directed towards an area where we couldn't see it because we wanted that privacy. Our children, we raised a lot of children. They had the freedom to be able to walk up and down the road, exercise, not need a ride to go to their friend's house because, you know, there wasn't a tremendous amount of traffic. We didn't have to worry about business trucks or anything else. When we found a place here, we liked the fact that Brookfield was 50% conservation. It's not as woodsy as what we were used to, but it had the same characteristics of what we were used to. I'm not on that road, but I lived on something similar. And I think there's a, 550 frontage is what the distance would be from the first house that's next to it. To me, if that were me, that wouldn't be enough. It definitely, I think, would affect the value of the homes that are on that property. It's going to affect the quality of life for the people on that property. It's a residential area. And when I chose my home where I was before, I would not have chosen it if there was a business on that road. And where I am now, it's, you know, I'm in a mobile home park, but it's spacious, and that's hard to find. Everything that's said tonight, not enough information is here. There's nothing concrete. It's almost like this whole proposal is kind of half done. Because, yeah, I mean, there's nothing concrete. There's nothing to guarantee. And one of the things that bothered me was the comparison of the breweries and stuff, and the comment was made of how that led to them being able to open up shops and different things. Well, if that's on the mind already, what is to say that that's not something that's going to be pushed later on to open up different marijuana shops in Brookfield.
Could you wrap up,
And-
please?
Huh?
Wrap it up, please. You're getting near 3 minutes.
Okay, I'm here because I'm definitely against it. I also know that marijuana is very different today than it was when I grew up. And it is really serious. And I just don't believe that this is the town for it to be in.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jeff Landy.
Jeff Landine. Not here?
Lindsay Holm,
Lindsay Holm? She left.
Kathleen Landry,
Kath? Okay.
Richard.
JB? Okay.
I just simply want to say I grew up on Molasses Hill, and it was an awesome place to live. And I just hope that you guys, I know that everything changes, but I just hope things change for the better and not the worst. That's all.
Okay. Thank you.
Will.
Is it on? Yeah. So I think there's a lot of repetitiveness here. I mean, I'm not going to say anything that hasn't already been said. It sounds like the business plan is lacking. I don't know. If we could get some concrete information, perhaps as odor, things like that, I think it could answer some questions. At this point, we don't have it. So, I mean, that's kind of where I stand.
Thank you.
Mark Mitchell.
Mark Mitchell? Left.
Sarah Campbell.
Sarah Campbell? There she is.
Sarah Campbell, 26 Central Street. I just want to make the comment, this has nothing to do with the litigation. There's a change on the plan submitted to the planning board compared to the plan submitted to the Conservation Commission last year. I consider it to be a significant change noted on the plan and may require the Conservation Commission's review and approval, sorry. Town Council is currently reviewing the matter. Through the chair, my question to the applicant is if the plan needs to be amended, is he going to come to the Conservation Commission and go through the process again to have the amended plan approved?
No comment.
Can we clarify, the speaker is speaking personally or on behalf of the commission?
Yeah.
Personally, I said 26 Central Street, I didn't say vice chair.
Personal. Same. Okay. Same person. So, okay. You don't have any comment, but okay. But if you were changing a plan. Okay. All right. Okay. Who's next?
I have Beth Olson.
Beth Olson.
Hello. I have 2 questions and then just a couple comments. I agree with everything that's been said tonight, so I'm going to try not to repeat anything. First question is, how will traffic be handled during construction of the facility? For example, during the site clearing, there were large logging vehicles that blocked the road during the morning commute with no police presence to navigate the traffic. I had to sit there for several minutes while workers ignored my car, giving me visual cues to use the private driveway at 5 Molasses Hill. Second question, what are the legal repercussions for individuals trespassing on the premises? This is a neighborhood full of children and near a high school. I worry children walking down the road of their neighborhood or teenagers from down the road could get themselves in serious trouble because marijuana is a federally illegal Schedule I controlled substance. Molasses Hill is notorious for losing power. I'm a remote worker, and I'm fully aware that we are most likely to lose power when weather occurs or just for no reason at all. That's just more of a warning to the business. I would also recommend the light blocking curtains that if those get put into the special permit, that they run with the daylight cycle instead of at specific times, since daylight varies depending on the season. And then I just also wanted to make a comment on the Oakham Brewery, because this was brought forward by Sun Fusions, that they are comparing their facility to Oakham Brewery, and that choosing to deny permitting for this facility will show favoritism. I'd like to point out that Oakham Brewery is a private space that is open to the public and provides many public commodities to the community. They have a petting zoo, games, a large public space with seating, food trucks, and live music. They're also a wedding venue. They provide a gathering space for the community, and they bring in revenue from the greater Worcester area. For all these reasons, it makes sense that they would be located in a scenic area. People want to get married and have fun in an idyllic farm setting, not in an industrial park. Sun Fusions is planning on making a large facility that will not be open to the public. Within this facility, they will be growing and processing a federally illegal Schedule I controlled substance. I would not consider these businesses equivalent.
Thank you. Okay, so to you, Mr. Fromm, Mr. Sosby, traffic control during construction, what's the plan? Have you engaged, have you discussed this with the police department at all, or?
No.
No.
Construction consists of building the greenhouse and the head house. Materials are brought onto the property. Once they're on the property, there's very little traffic except workers coming and going, which they don't need to do through Molasses Hill Road during construction.
Yep. So no foundation work that's going to be done?
There will be foundation work.
There will be foundation work,
Yes.
okay. So form trucks and coming in, and cement trucks and that sort of thing.
Correct.
Are you leaving the control of the traffic up to the contractors who provide those services?
I'm not anticipating traffic, but why would there be a form truck pulling in? And
Okay, all right.
a form truck pulling into the property doesn't cause traffic. It
Okay.
sets its forms and leaves.
So,
If there were a problem with traffic, I'd hire a policeman, I suppose, but I don't see it happening.
Yeah. So maybe Mr. Sosby can handle this second question, which was the penalty for trespass. Do you know that?
Well, there's no specific cannabis facility-related trespassing consequences in Massachusetts. As we noted, there will be a fence around the facility. There's restricted access. Actually getting beyond the fence would be difficult, and there's the security cameras. And if it was a juvenile, I think they would just simply be escorted off the property, and obviously their safety would be paramount. If they're trespassing on other parts of the parcel, it's no different than it is right now. I don't think there's any implication from federal law, since that was mentioned. As we know, the state licensing scheme is largely designed to prevent federal law enforcement interference, and we haven't seen any such federal law enforcement actions in Massachusetts against licensed facilities.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm assuming you have no problem mentioning to your construction workers not to restrict roadway access. I mean,
We have, as I said, we have a secondary entrance off of 148 during the construction period, but I don't see it being needed. A cement truck pulls in, dumps the sod, pulls out. For the period of time, the moments that it takes to pull onto 148, there's traffic, but to have a cop there, if it's necessary, we'll do it.
no,
but-
I don't assume you need a cop. I'm just assuming it would be appreciative for the residents if you would mention.
I was not aware that the loggers, when they came, I wasn't present, had any such issues. Had I been made aware of it, but no one has ever made me aware of any of the opposition. I learned it secondhand. I get it through emails and so forth. If anybody had asked me to do something, I would have done it. It's as simple as that. It's common courtesy. If
Well, then
you're
I'll
having
ask
an
you.
issue, please do.
Please mention to your construction workers not to block the road.
I will make absolutely certain that
Yeah.
doesn't happen.
Perfect.
Jake, do we have anybody online who wants to ask a question?
There might be in the chat. Also from Mr. Ayers, no one has addressed what the expected tax income could be to the town. Is the risk worth it? I think it's worth the risk. Respect your opinion, brother.
We don't get tax money for this, right?
Not this board.
Not this board, that's right.
Not our department, for it. And who's next, Helen?
Okay, we have Brian Starrett.
Brian?
Thank you. My wife and I recently moved into town, and we're in West Brookfield, and we love it here. We love the small town look and feel. And the people we've met so far are great. My biggest concern really is with regard to the possibility of increased crime, and obviously everything that everyone else has already talked about, the odors. The crime is big between Worcester and Springfield, with the drug corridor, so to speak, and I know it's becoming more and more of a problem. I lived in Worcester for 24 years, and I saw it firsthand. It's likely to get worse before it gets better. My somewhat rhetorical question is, why this property? Why now? Why does the owner of this property want to build a non-residential structure in a very clearly residential zone? Are there no other properties available that are zoned more appropriately, locally or otherwise, for this business? I'm assuming he lives local.
Okay, all right. Mr. Fromm, would you care to respond to that?
Sure.
Yep. Here it comes. Yep.
Yeah, it's my property. I've lived there for 20 years. Pay taxes for 20 years. There's no 61 or whatever the heck you folks do to avoid taxes. I've paid full freight. I'll do, I hope, what's legal on my property, and I won't do what isn't legal. It's that simple. Anybody owning a piece of property that meets the guidelines in our bylaw can come forward and try to cultivate marijuana if they want to. And they may or may not get a permit. I may or may not get a permit. And to answer your question, there are lots of things that can be done with property. I think this is the smallest footprint you can possibly have to make a piece of property pay. It's that simple. It's a good business venture given the new industry that has formed. There are many other things to be done with property. I absolutely agree. They're usually one-time shots, involve lots of foundations, and lots of new neighbors. I just don't think that's the greatest use. I spent 20 years not developing that property. I bought it to develop. I didn't do it. I tried to dredge the lake and make a topsoil business. Couldn't get through this process. I pretty much gave up any hope that that land could support itself without being developed and cut into, pieces. Look, I'm not an advocate for marijuana. I'm not a cheerleader, and I had no intention of. I was going to do hemp. You would have loved that. I didn't do hemp because I didn't think it was a very good business model. But 20 acres of that has absolutely no odor control, no special permit, and not a thing anybody can do to stop it. And I thought that it was rude. I thought it was smelly, and I thought it was not a very good business model. A 1-acre greenhouse with the odor properly controlled, you should not know is there. But to answer your question, and I'll answer it just as straight as I can, my land, my choice, I'm taking my shot at a special permit, whether I get it or not.
Okay, thank you. Okay. and
Robert Ross?
Robert Ross? Nope.
Christine Hurley?
I just want to say that I'm opposed. I'd
Hang
like
on.
to say that my answers have been, my questions have been answered, but they haven't. There's a lot of holes in the application and everything else, and he just said it. My land, my choice, and this is how he's been doing things his whole life. And he's been doing it in Brookfield, and you all know it, doing whatever the heck he wants under cease and desist or whatever you want to call it. And I just hope you guys do your due diligence and your homework and so forth. I don't think we need this in Brookfield, never mind on Molasses Hill Road. Thank you.
Dave Holcraft?
Dave Holcraft.
That would be me, the end of the list.
Not quite.
J.D. Holcraft or Dave Holcraft. I was on the planning board when we revamped all these marijuana laws, and all of us on the board were very adamant that there was to be no manufacturing in the rural residential neighborhoods. That was a key thing that we all agreed on. I voted everything down, all the bylaws that came forward. I voted everything down myself. As far as Mr. Fromm, I don't know who's going to keep track of him, but the conservation, he just snubbed that conservation and just did whatever he wants. I think that's in court. Cease and desist, didn't matter. Just keep doing what he wants to do. And that's what's going to happen when he gets his operation going. Do whatever he wants to do. I don't know who's going to watch him, but you guys on the planning board, vote the special permit down. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Alex?
Alex?
33 Molasses Hill Road. I wasn't going to speak, but a couple of the other residents kind of got me going in my head. The opening comment by the lawyer about you wouldn't know there's a manufacturing site there. I've worked in manufacturing for 15 years, and you wouldn't know my site exists. It uses more power than the entire city of Worcester. It doesn't matter if you can't hear it, smell it, see it. You are making an impact on the state. I would like to know the applicant's manufacturing experience. If you can ask, Chair.
Sure. So Mr. Fromm, you didn't list any manufacturing experience on your resume. Do you have any?
I have any manufacturing experience as applies to this firm, extracting oil from plants.
Or of any support, any sort of manufacturing?
I worked in a factory, you mean?
Yeah, did you?
No.
No? Did you ever own or run a factory?
I've never owned a factory, no.
No, okay.
I've had 3 or 4 inventions which have been produced overseas, and I've gone to those factories and supervised the prototypes and put in the orders for the products and sold them online.
But, yeah.
I guess that's not really hitting the nail.
Inventing is something else entirely, yeah.
If I may, I realize
Do we have the microphone?
We can't actually hear up here.
Okay, right.
I realize perhaps this isn't obvious, but Mr. Fromm is not the subject matter expert in all of the jobs that will be carried out in this facility.
Okay.
But what he will do is he will hire those experts. And I imagine that those experts would not be, or the subject matter experts, like the cultivator or the person who would operate the extraction machine, they may not be best suited to planning and running the business.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone has their role. I think we all understand this, and I think it would be. I don't think anyone should expect that Mr. Fromm is going to do all of those jobs himself.
Right. Okay. Then thank you. That was going to be my next question too, is where you expect to acquire the expertise necessary. Okay. All right.
Can I continue my comment?
Yeah. You
So I would hope that the planning board would consider, some level of experience for the plans that are being presented to them. Some credibility to the experience. Having worked in manufacturing for a long time, another resident said, "Oh, this plan is half done." I'd say 5% done in terms of the planning, just based on my experience. And the other question I had for the town was, how many manufacturing sites are currently operating in Brookfield? Roughly.
Roughly.
Well, we just lost a big one.
Yeah. Yeah. The wire
there's a couple
factory's
small
gone.
ones.
We got. What do we have?
You have one on Route 9. 2 actually down there.
Is it Brookfield Wire?
No, that's over the line.
That's over the line. I thought so. Yeah.
But you got Intercity, they manufacture trailers.
Oh, they.
And you get the old Roberts Weldon, which is a machine shop, welding shop.
Okay.
I mean, there's a few.
Custom
There's a lot of
pallets.
small. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Custom
Yeah.
pallets,
There's,
small,
there's
okay.
some manufacturing in town, but not a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're all B,
Yeah, they're all.
pretty much, right?
Yeah. Business.
I gotta say, they were all here before zoning, too.
Yeah. Oh well, if there were, then it doesn't really matter. They're grandfathered in.
My experience from manufacturing shows that there's a lot of back and forth with industry. The town has to be properly staffed to deal with the problems that come up with manufacturing. And does the town have any budgeting related to litigation that's likely to come up because of this?
Yeah, that's a matter for the select board.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have one.
Brian Ayers?
Brian Ayers? There he is.
Brian Ayers, 18 Long Hill Road, been a resident in town for 45 years. Couple of things I heard tonight, the chlorine dioxide, long-term health effects on wildlife as well as humans. So a lot of us that got small kids in town, like the folks that already spoke about the kids that they homeschool right next door. I got a young child myself, certainly got effects as, we got 2,800 gallons a day of water that's going to seep into the grounds. The chlorine dioxide that's going to be emitted from the greenhouses. They said it goes down on top of the plants, disseminates the odor, but then it's blown out from the greenhouse. So that's all going to be in the air that we breathe as residents in this town. All the water and the runoff, that's all going to be hitting the Quabog River, have an effect on all of the stuff that we do recreationally here in this community. So all of these things, I think, have an impact negatively towards this community.
Thank you. Would you like to clarify how the wastewater from irrigation is handled?
The goal of drip irrigation is not to have wastewater. It's not considered wastewater, actually. Irrigation is irrigation. Fertilizer that is contained within the water is meant to go into the pot and not any further. If it does go further, it drips down onto the ground under the greenhouse. It is not 2,800 gallons a day. It is a very small amount from what I've observed in other operations. The goal is to not drip onto the ground. But I would remind you, by way of, I don't know, making you feel better, I guess, that we're not going to be throwing tons and tons of fertilizer onto the ground as any cornfield does. We're not going to be using 50 to 60,000 gallons a day as many farming operations do. This is a very small operation. And the goal is not to have water going into the ground. That's money going into the ground. So we're well motivated not to do that. Wastewater is a different topic, and I would let the attorney address it if you want it addressed.
Mm-hmm. That's just one thing. Is the floor of the greenhouse concrete?
Permeable.
It's permeable?
It's like a weed control fabric type of deal.
Okay. All right.
Not a concrete surface.
It's not concrete. Okay.
What was the specific wastewater question? I'm not sure I caught it.
How is it being handled, and where is it generated, and how is it being handled?
Wastewater runoff.
Right. Well, so I'm not the best person to answer that. I actually don't know the specifics of for this design.
Uh-huh.
I know a little more than that. So the water that comes in contact with things that potentially have THC on them, that's wastewater, and it has to go into a holding tank and be pumped out by a certified vendor.
Which you said earlier.
Yep. Okay. Is that
Okay, Len? I'm sorry, I can't pronounce.
Len?
Dave's
Up
got
front
it.
here.
Dave's got it.
Len Contrastano, 37 Molasses Hill. Pardon my voice, I'm getting a little tense here. Nothing was said about him owning the clam shack now, the former clam shack, because he's going to turn it into a marijuana sales building.
Yeah.
So that means he's going to have an operation that goes from there to the clam shack. Now, what's going to happen if his crop isn't working too well in the place that he's going to build? He's going to bring in other marijuana. Where is he going to cut it, treat it in his plant that he wants to do here? So you've got two problems here. You're going to be bringing people into the marijuana shack, and you're going to be bringing more marijuana in than he says he's going to process.
So that's something I think should be thought about, a restriction on what comes out of that place. If he is going to grow his marijuana there and process it, only the marijuana he grows there and processes gets to go in and out of that place. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And yeah, his submission does stipulate that he's growing his own there. Go ahead.
Just to be clear, our own product will be one thing on offer in a potential retail store. There would certainly be other people's products on offer, but that's
Right.
brought in as finished product.
Yeah, and you have not applied for a permit for the retail store?
No, we don't have a permit in, application in.
Okay.
There is another comment.
Another, okay. And who's that from?
Dave. Yeah, also David Ayers. I take personal offense to my tax question not being answered. Maybe you don't know the answer, but you should. One hand washes the other. Not too many people do anything without knowing what the payback is going to be. If this isn't a positive effect for the community, why bother?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, the question of tax revenue is not part of what this board considers. It's part of what the select board considers, and it is, I believe, handled in part through the state regulations and through the host community agreement. There are payments that are set forth in the host community agreement, which is, again, a select board document. Yeah, go ahead.
Just to clarify, so not to get too lawyerly, but taxes are set by a state law, and towns do not control taxes. A cannabis business pays the same taxes that any other business pays. There's no difference. What the texter may be referring to is the community impact fees, which is not a tax. That is meant to address impacts on communities that are specific to a cannabis business. And there's state law and state regulations that dictate how much and in what manner those can be assessed upon a cannabis business, and those are outlined in the host community agreement that's executed with the town.
Okay. All right. Yes, and sure. Okay, go ahead. You are, again?
Bill Meeker, 32 Weber Road.
Okay.
I just had a question about any stormwater management. Being that you're taking a property that's got a fair amount of acreage, and by all accounts, over 2 acres is going to become impervious. So that water's got to go somewhere. It's uphill of wetlands. So just a general question of how is that going to be managed? Is there a plan for that management? And if so, I didn't see it in the plan.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The plan for stormwater management was sent to our consulting engineer for the town to be reviewed, and storm drainage. This is his report. The site is designed to have stormwater flow off paved areas into stone-lined drainage swales. The swales run to 2 drainage basins, one near the entrance and another north of the head house. That basin includes an infiltration system. The design drawings include sufficient stormwater controls to protect abutting properties and water resources from impacts, including the use of temporary construction measures to prevent erosion and sedimentation impacts caused by construction site runoff. The plan incorporates perimeter sediment barriers and a construction entrance during construction. The applicant provided a detailed stormwater management report prepared by TEC that shows the stormwater system is appropriately designed for the site. In addition, the site has been designed to meet the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection stormwater management standards. And those plans are posted to the web page for this meeting, if you care to look at it. Any other questions? people who have not spoken want to speak? Okay, any further questions from members of the board? Do we think that there are things that we need more information on? Okay. All right.
Yes,
So-
Captain.
Yes, so let's list those.
Well, so I'll start with a couple that I know right off the bat is more detailed plans on the lighting blocking, light blocking features. Possibly light timing features, what time the lights plan on being on. At least a detailed operation set.
Kevin,
Yeah,
are we talking about manufacturing?
well, that's part of it too. What do we
Part,
have?
but
Do we have
what
enough?
are we debating tonight?
We haven't started debating yet. We're trying to decide whether there's more information that we need.
But
So-
isn't the public hearing for manufacturing?
No, it's for everything, it's for both.
It's a combined.
Yeah,
So the special permit is one to be in rural residential.
Yeah.
And then he's asking for a variance for
For the
manufacturing.
manufacturing.
And then he's asking for a separate third, technically, for two primary uses.
Right.
So it's kind of like three, but.
I don't think we have enough information.
No, there's not enough. We've mentioned
I'd like a site visit.
site visit.
10, 12 different things that definitely need to be addressed. So the lights,
Well, the whole manufacturing process is gonna be a lot more
yeah,
detailed,
more detailed on the manufacturing,
and the odor control.
the odor control. Bring stuff in line that we can actually look at and understand besides just,
Well, I can say this much, with a lot of the town grants we did, there's submittals. This is what we're using.
yeah.
So a piece of equipment, there it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a better understanding of the chemical process. I think a lot of people have concerns about that chemical process.
Or odor control?
Yes,
Yeah.
and what that all entails. I think understanding that completely is important.
I would like, I know this is crazy, I don't know if we can do this. I would like a water survey for the well.
Yeah, I have.
You mean like a hydrological
Yeah, I
There's gotta
mean,
be a study done on that.
study?
there's 20 homes up right on that area that all use wells. I know as well as, 2,800 gallons is
What
more than,
stress does it put
more
on
than
the
10
whole
homes, right? That's like adding a lot of homes on us.
65 gallons a day per person.
Yeah, there you go.
That's what it is.
So 2,800,
4 cubic feet a day is what they're gonna be using. It's
Well-
2,800 gallons.
Your own comment was a bit controversial, because you did mention 2,800 gallons a day, and then you kind of backpedaled on that amount,
How so?
because you said we wouldn't be using that much. You did.
I think what Mr. Fromm was saying was that
It's 2
that amount
gallons
would be
per
going to the
plant
ground.
per day.
Excuse me?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Go ahead. Please, continue.
I think that I think I know the comment you were thinking of, and I think what Mr. Fromm was saying is that that quantity of water would not be going to the ground every day because of the drip irrigation thing.
Oh, yeah, no, plants, you only actually should water what you need. And but I don't know what that amount will be, you know?
Yeah.
Have you,
Yeah, and we-
is there any thought that you can surface water? No.
The whole problem they're having is they have surface wells.
No, you using surface water.
No?
I mean, you own quite a bit of it.
Yeah, you mean the reservoir?
Yeah.
No, believe me, these people would be out there, I'm saying, you can't just march in and, you can, but I don't want to. You know what I mean? It's like, you better go.
Well, I don't know what you mean by marching in, you own the place.
Yeah, but the wetlands are the wetlands. You can't just march into the wetlands and start pumping water out without raising a lot of hackers.
Well, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, the well is, it's one well. I mean, you've got a well, I've got a well. If you run it all day, you'll probably pump 7,000 or 8,000 gallons out of it.
Yeah, but no home pumps that much. That's all I'm just.
No, I understand that,
If you
but
run my well all day, it goes round.
Okay, let's, no back and forth here.
yeah, I just raised the fact that 7 or 8 houses a day is about what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So that's what, get your mind around 7 or 8 houses, you'll have it nailed, because that's what it is. It's just not gonna affect the act. I know people want to bring it up, and it's another thing, you can batch a project, whatever they can, but it's not really the point. If you want a study done,
Well, I mean, I don't know if that's just calling your local well guy and I'm saying, hey, this is what you produce. I'm just asking. I'm not saying we're mandating it. Just saying it might help if you throw that into this. If you
Well,
do
the
have
other way
a,
to look at it too, if you put in 10 houses, you've used more than demand you're gonna use.
And if I may, my understanding is that Brookfield has the wellhead protection overlay district, correct? To
Yes.
protect the aquifer, right?
Right.
And the property and site is not in that overlay district.
Way out of it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if there's zoning bylaws that I'm not aware of that regulate, that require something like a water survey.
Well, that's for the public water supply for the center of town. It wouldn't be germane to the positioning of this particular property.
We're just trying to get to the bottom of
Right.
numbers, that's all.
yeah, just making sure.
Okay. Okay, so we need, then we're looking for more detail on the lighting plans, the lighting equipment, and the light blocking equipment. The proposed equipment for extraction, the more detail on exactly how the odor control process works in terms of what's located where, and the expected effects within the area after it's discharged, and the water, and of course, Bruce mentioned site visit, and we could coordinate that with you guys. So,
No, so I think it's reasonable.
yeah, so.
And I'm not, yeah.
So, okay, so we've been at this now for 3 hours. I'm going to propose that we continue this public hearing so that we can get this additional information to another date. And, rather than trying to make it a decision without.
You have to give a date.
Yeah, we need to have a date for this.
So we should have 2 dates, unless we do the site visit on the same day, because it's gonna be a quorum there.
Yeah, well, I think we should probably arrange to do a site visit in groups of no more than 2, then we wouldn't have to worry about the quorum issue.
Well, could be, but.
Yeah, I can go over there
interaction,
anytime.
The way you're standing there is pretty good.
Yeah, so what do we got for,
And if you want the new member to be involved, maybe you should wait until next month.
They can't, they weren't a part of this meeting.
well, a new member can take part in the decision if they listen to the whole recording of the program, which is exactly why we had it. And who knows, the next member might even be present here tonight.
Right, but it's gonna take time anyway for gather all your documents.
What do you
Oh,
say?
really?
Bruce wants a walkthrough and then says, let's get the other member on.
Mr. Simons?
Yes. No, I do, but I think it's important.
Yeah, I agree.
Sorry, just one quick thing.
Yeah.
We talked about light pollution. I believe in regards to growing, can we also just ensure that security light, for security lighting is included in that also?
Oh, yeah, sure. And,
I think it is.
And in fact, it is on the present plan. It is on the present plan, and he's made, he's described it as being downlighting only with shielding.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Will there be, would the public be aware of when you actually get to the main topic here of letting manufacturing happen when it's against the state law?
Right. Yes. Well, we'll be
Will that be a
continuing.
public forum?
Yeah, we'll be continuing this public hearing until another date, which we have to choose. And the public is always welcome to observe these meetings anyway. If there are other comments that people wish to make at that time, as long as the public hearing is open, they can be made. Once we close the public hearing, that's it. We have no more comments from the public. We don't do any more research or investigation ourselves. We just work with whatever the evidence and the comments are that we've received. And at that point, we talk about it, we deliberate, as that's the term used, and we decide to vote on whether or not to grant the permit. And then after the, yeah. No, there are 5 of us. There. Yeah, to get a special permit, because it is discretionary zoning, you need a supermajority. So we actually require 4 votes in the affirmative, 4 out of 5, in order to grant the permit. You're welcome. All right, so what do people have on their calendars? We have the next planning board meeting I have set already as Wednesday, May 7th. That's 2 days after the town elections.
I thought you were going to say Cinco de Mayo. I was like, man, this guy's.
Yeah, tequila's going to be expensive this year.
I can do May 7th if you want to do it that day as well.
Yeah.
We haven't been
I think
busy.
we've been through most of it.
Yeah.
So it won't be so bad. That sound?
The 7th is good.
Sounds good.
I mean, if we're really handy, we can just meet at the Molasses Hill Road, do the walkthrough.
Yeah, no.
No?
Well, and between now and then, let's,
Set up
a date with Mr. Frome
Yep.
to do the site visit.
Sounds good.
We'll get your contact information.
Okay.
All right, so then by agreement here, we're continuing this public hearing to May 7, which will be at 6:30 p.m. right here in the banquet hall.
Are we going to do the meeting at 6:30 or are we going to do it at 7 like we normally would just?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, you want to put the public hearing actually to start at 7. So that's probably a good idea. We can get some of the other business out of the way at 6:30. Okay,
Yep.
fine. We'll set up we'll continue the public hearing at 7. So it'll start no sooner than 7. That's it. So that being the only item of business on the agenda for this meeting, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn at 9:16 p.m.
9:16 p.m. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Lisa seconds. All in favor, please signify by saying your name and aye.
Chris, aye.
Bruce, aye.
Kevin, aye.
Lisa, aye.
All right, great, thank you.
Hello. I saw you an hour ago. I was like, I just want to give it a check.
You know what, though? I see problems.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you missed the mundane shit at the beginning.